Warrior Lore. Chapter 1874. Rumble. The heavens and earth shook. An ancient cauldron, like a primordial god mountain, slowly moved towards a palace. The god city below began to tremble, as if it were about to fall from the sky. Everyone was stunned when they saw this. They never expected Gu Fei to use such a direct method to break the sage ruler array. Boss is really fierce. Even He Tian was extremely shocked when he saw this. At this moment, Gu Fei's entire body was emitting chaotic divine light. He was using his full strength. It was not an easy task to move the mountain and river cauldron. As his cultivation level increased, Gu Fei realized that it was getting harder and harder for him to use the mountain and river cauldron because it consumed too much yuan qi. With Gu Fei's current cultivation level, it was still not enough. He did not dare to use his own strength to move the mountain and river cauldron. He was afraid that the mountain and river cauldron would suck all his yuan qi dry. Of course, with He Tian, a formation grandmaster, Gu Fei did not need to use much of his own yuan qi to move the mountain and river cauldron. However, it would take a lot of time to set up a huge spirit gathering array. Gu Fei used his full strength. Everyone retreated far away. The energy waves that spread from the mountain and river cauldron were too strong. Such power was at least at the sage level. Of course, this was only a phenomenon of the mountain and river cauldron showing signs of awakening. In fact, Gu Fei did not think that the spirit qi gathered by He Tian's spirit gathering array could completely awaken the mountain and river cauldron. As long as it recovered a little, it would be enough. He could feel that the artifact soul in the mountain and river cauldron was still in a deep sleep. Bang! The huge mountain and river cauldron finally collided with the sage ruler array. Countless runes intertwined, and a powerful sage ruler level power appeared in the divine city. Buzz! The sage ruler array that protected the hall was shaking. The collision of the mountain and river cauldron had directly shaken the array, and some runes were dissipating. Even the array that the sage ruler had personally set up suffered an unprecedented impact. Some runes were directly obliterated in the void. He really managed to shake the formation, Qin Wentian muttered. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. However, when they thought that the most important item in the hall had already been decided, they didn't feel good. One had to know that even a sage would be jealous of that item. Sigh. The Green Emperor sighed. In the tens of thousands of years that he had faked his death, he had been plotting how to invade the God City in the sky, obtain the item in the God City, and then settle the score with Taoist Hong Jun. As long as he refined that thing, Taoist Hong Jun wouldn't be a match for him even if he had 10 flawless sage tools, let alone a single flawless sage tool. However, once the source of heaven and earth was obtained by the other party, he would only become a prisoner. However, it seemed like it was useless to think about this now. He just wanted to leave this world as soon as possible. Roar! Gu Fei roared angrily. The mountain and river cauldron was too heavy. With his cultivation, he could only push it slowly. The power of the Sage King array was completely unleashed. A huge figure stood up from the formation. That is, the moment he saw that figure, the Green Emperor couldn't help but shiver. The figure gave off a familiar wave that he would never be able to forget. Master. The Green Emperor was shocked. He had once followed the ancient sage in this world, and he knew very well how strong and terrifying this sage was. Otherwise, the Azure Dragon and Taoist Hong Jun would not have only started to fight for the leadership of this world after the sage had disappeared for 50,000 years to become the ruler of this world. Boom! The great formation protecting the Great Hall was in operation. The illusory figure actually began to solidify, as if a real ancient sage was about to appear. Bang! The shadow standing in the middle of the array moved and punched the mountain river cauldron, causing it to shake continuously. Wow! Gu Fei felt a huge force coming from the mountain and river cauldron. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of a sage king was too strong. Even if it didn't hit his body, he still suffered a huge impact. Sage! Gu Fei's eyes glistened. It was just an attack from a figure, and it could hurt him. If it was a real sage, what would the scene be like? The strength of a sage was unquestionable. They were existences that stood above all others. If one didn't reach that level, one would never know how strong a sage was. Rumble. Gu Fei didn't stop. He continued to use the martial path true force in his body and pushed the mountain and river cauldron forward. Boss. Seeing this, He Tian couldn't understand why Boss would personally push the mountain and river cauldron. He didn't have to do this. As long as he activated the primordial chaos chi in the mountain and river cauldron, he would be able to break this formation. The primordial chaos chi was the ancestor chi of heaven and earth. Not to mention the Sage King formation, even the extreme Dao array could destroy it. He Tian couldn't understand, but he seemed to have sensed something. Bang! The figure formed by the formation punched the mountain and river cauldron again. Although the powerful force was mostly dissipated by the mountain and river cauldron, Gu Fei still vomited blood. Seeing this, He Tian couldn't help but be shocked. Buzz! At this moment, the mountain and river cauldron vibrated, and the primordial chaos chi started to appear on the mountain and river cauldron. An extremely ancient aura immediately spread out from the mountain and river cauldron. Primordial chaos chi. Seeing the essence chi surrounding the mountain and river cauldron, the mysterious woman and Qiu Wuqing couldn't help but be moved. That was the ancestor chi of heaven and earth. No wonder the mountain and river cauldron could suppress heaven and earth. One had to know that even a wisp of primordial chaos chi could crush a mountain. It wasn't without reason that the mountain and river cauldron was said to be able to suppress 3,000 worlds. The appearance of the primordial chaos chi accelerated the collapse of the Sage King formation. In the void, countless array patterns and Dao patterns dissipated in the primordial chaos chi. This really is the legendary primordial chaos chi. The Green Emperor was dumbfounded. His master was so powerful in the past, but even with his strength, it was difficult for him to obtain a wisp of primordial chaos chi. Something that even Sage Kings couldn't get their hands on had actually fallen into the hands of Gu Fei. However, at this moment, Gu Fei was seriously injured. The Sage King formation was collapsing, but he kept vomiting blood. The shadow was very powerful and displayed the power of a Sage King. If it wasn't for the fact that Gu Fei's martial body was so strong that it was abnormal, he would have died long ago. Even so, he was still seriously injured. This was something that rarely happened in recent years. Open for me. Gu Fei's chest was stained with blood. He used all his strength and pushed the mountain and river cauldron forward. Countless array patterns and Dao patterns dissipated continuously, and the power of the formation was rapidly retreating. He really broke through the Sage King formation. Everyone was extremely excited. However, at this moment, no one dared to rush forward. It was important to know that the destructive storm that spread after the collision of the two great powers was something that even a half-step sage would find hard to resist. No one wanted to go forward and die. Just as Gu Fei was exhausted, a figure suddenly appeared behind Gu Fei and directly attacked Gu Fei's head with a palm. How dare you! He Tian roared angrily and pounced towards the person who had suddenly appeared to ambush Gu Fei. This person actually dared to sneak an attack on Gu Fei. He deserved to die. Buzz. Qiu Wuqing also attacked at the first instant. The halberd in his hand slashed towards the head of the person who had suddenly appeared, wanting to force the person to defend himself. However, the person's movements were extremely fast. Moreover, he accurately calculated the moment when Gu Fei was using all his strength to push the mountain and river cauldron and could not stop. Gu Fei, go to hell! The person shouted loudly. His palm was about to hit Gu Fei's head. The person had used all his strength in this attack. Even the void between heaven and earth was pierced. Gu Fei sneered. His body suddenly moved 10 feet to the side. The person's full-strength palm immediately lost its target. This shocked everyone. What? The person was shocked. Boom. The person's full-strength palm hit the mountain and river cauldron squarely. Then, an unimaginably strong force rebounded from the mountain and river cauldron. Wow. The recoil was very strong. The person directly spat out a mouthful of blood. He had never thought that this would be the result. The attack that he had been plotting for a long time had failed. Long Badeo. You finally came out. Gu Fei turned around and looked coldly at the person who had sneakily attacked him. This person was none other than Long Badeo, who had been scared away by Gu Fei and He Tian. You, seeing that Gu Fei had turned around and stopped pushing the mountain and river cauldron, Long Badeo knew that he had fallen into a trap. From the beginning to the end, his opponent had been acting. His goal was very simple. He wanted to lure him out, and he had really been tricked by his opponent. He had actually jumped out on his own accord. Let's see where you can run this time. He Tian approached. He held the heaven transformation seal in his hand. The invisible sword turned into a sword light that was almost invisible to the naked eye and circled around him. Despicable. Long Badeo was really afraid this time. However, he still looked calm on the surface. Haha, speaking of despicable, how can we compare to you? He Tian couldn't help but laugh. At this moment, Qiu Wuqing and the mysterious woman also approached. They formed a circle around Long Badeo, blocking all his escape routes. Long Badeo knew that he had failed miserably this time. Moreover, this was a fatal mistake. He would not be arrogant enough to fight against Gu Fei and the other 4 experts alone. Even if Gu Fei attacked alone, Long Badeo might not be a match for Gu Fei. Swoosh. Chapter 1875. Gu Fei had successfully lured Long Badao out. Long Badao was indeed lurking at the side, waiting for a chance to deal a fatal blow to Gu Fei. When he thought that Gu Fei had been injured in order to activate the mountain and river cauldron, his chance came. So he decisively attacked Gu Fei. However, he never thought that this was just a trap set by Gu Fei, waiting for him to jump out. Swoosh. Long Badao was very decisive. He knew that he was no match for Gu Fei, so he immediately turned into a beam of divine light, wanting to escape. Gu Fei let out a cold laugh and threw out a punch. Bang! With a muffled sound, Long Badao was punched by Gu Fei. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. He was extremely shocked that Gu Fei's vitality was not injured at all. How is this possible? He clearly saw that Gu Fei had been injured in order to activate the mountain and river cauldron to attack the Saint Ruler formation. How could Gu Fei still be so powerful? Long Badao, we've been tricked by you, the mysterious woman said coldly. She held the divine bow in her hand and slowly pulled it back. Spiritual chi from all directions immediately gathered towards the bow and the person. At this time, Long Badao was surrounded by 5 experts. Even if he was extremely intelligent and quick-witted, beads of sweat could not help but appear on his forehead at this time. It should be known that any one of them here was no weaker than him in terms of cultivation and combat ability. Despicable, what kind of hero are you? If you have the guts, come and fight me. While speaking, Long Badao's mind was constantly calculating how to resolve the crisis in front of him. But at this moment, he was so anxious that he was covered in cold sweat. Hearing this, He Tian smiled. Little Long, I'm not a hero and I don't care to be one. If you want to fight, I'll grant your wish. Come, I'm going to tear you to pieces. Long Badao's eyes were cold and a murderous aura spread from his body. Under the impact of this murderous aura, the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. I didn't say I wanted to fight you one-on-one. Why are you being so fierce? As He Tian spoke, he glanced at Gu Fei. Boss, you should be the hero. He Tian said such words. Long Badao was taken aback. He was most afraid of fighting against Gu Fei. One must know that even the cultivation madman Qiu Wuqing was not Gu Fei's opponent. Schwa. At this moment, Gu Fei's figure suddenly disappeared. Long Badao was shocked. Gu Fei had made his move. In the next moment, Gu Fei appeared behind He Tian and kicked the unresponsive He Tian towards Long Badao. "Ah, boss, you're murdering me for money," He Tian screamed, but at the same time, he attacked Long Badao. His hands seemed to be dancing randomly, but countless formation runes rushed out from his hands and interweaved into a big net, shrouding Long Badao. Formation in the void. Long Badao thought that it was Gu Fei who attacked him, but when he realized that it was not him, he heaved a sigh of relief. But He Tian flew towards him. Boom! The power in Long Badao's body exploded. The powerful force caused the void around him to vibrate, and visible ripples spread out. Roar! A huge phantom rushed out from Long Badao's body, filled with killing intent. The phantom directly punched out, creating a big hole in the net that was shrouding it. Shwa! Long Badeo took a step and rushed out from the big hole in the big net. Then, he stretched out his hand, and a big gray hand appeared in the void, grabbing towards He Tian. Black Een Devil Art. He Tian was startled. Long Badeo's claw was a great art of the devil path called the profound Een Great Chi Na hand. As long as one was caught by him, they would be destroyed in body and soul. Moreover, the scary thing about the Black Een Devil Art was not the Black Een Great Chi Na hand, but the fact that it could absorb the essence, chi, and spirit of other cultivators to enhance one's cultivation and combat power. In other words, those who cultivated this kind of demonic art would have their battle prowess gradually increase. This was because their opponent's essence, chi, and spirit would be gradually absorbed by them when they fought. Even if someone with the same cultivation and combat power fought with someone who cultivated the Black Een Devil Art, the one who cultivated the Black Een Devil Art would win in the end. This was because the opponent would use less and less power, while the cultivator would use more and more power. Devil Art. Everyone was shocked to hear this. One should know that demons were the enemy of all living beings. Their gazes towards Long Badeo changed. But what was strange was that when Long Badeo used the Devil Art, they couldn't feel a trace of the unique demonic nature of the Devil Dao. He Tian quickly retreated. He realized that he had underestimated his opponent, so he had no choice but to get serious. Kill. Long Badeo once again used the Black Een Great Chi Na hand, grabbing towards He Tian. He wanted to kill He Tian with a thunderous method and then escape. Humph! Although the Black Een Devil Art is powerful, your Grandpa He has nothing to fear. He Tian's hands were constantly moving in front of him. Formation runes flew out from his hands and imprinted themselves in the air. Long Badeo didn't say a word. He wanted to defeat He Tian in one move. However, He Tian was also a half-step saint, and he knew the ins and outs of the Black Een Devil Art. Long Badeo couldn't devour his essence, chi, and spirit. Wind, rise. While retreating, He Tian finally attacked again. Following his shout, a gust of astral wind descended from the sky, turning into countless transparent wind blades that flew towards Long Badeo. Humph! Long Badeo sneered. He directly used the Black Een Great Chi Na hand to shatter all the wind blades. In his opinion, such an attack couldn't cause any harm to him. Cloud movement. He Tian shouted again. At this time, clouds and mist suddenly appeared around Long Badeo. The appearance of these clouds and mist was very special, as if they appeared out of thin air. Lightning Devil Slayer. He Tian pointed his right hand towards the sky. Then, a dazzling lightning struck down from the sky. The lightning carried a destructive power, falling towards Long Badeo's head. What? Long Badeo, who was trapped by the clouds, was shocked. This He Tian was not simple. He actually used the power of lightning. In the end, he still fell for it. Long Badeo dodged the lightning at the same time. This was the power of heaven and earth. Even a half-step saint wouldn't dare to contend against it. Wind, clouds, and lightning. These three powers of heaven and earth were drawn by He Tian. In the air around Long Badeo, formation runes constantly appeared. He Tian laid out a great formation, trapping Long Badeo inside. He Tian seemed to be casually drawing out formation runes, but he quickly laid out a great formation that was enough to trap Long Badeo. Everyone has the right to slay a devil. Fellow Taoists, if you don't act now, when will you? He Tian shouted. He didn't want to fight Long Badeo alone because he was not a hero. He knew that the ending of a hero was always miserable. Swoosh! As soon as He Tian shouted, the mysterious woman made her move. A divine arrow was shot out. The divine arrow turned into a nearly transparent flame, piercing through the clouds in the formation and shooting towards Long Badeo. You guys! Long Badeo was shocked and angry. If everyone attacked together, he wouldn't have any chance. Haha, Long Badeo, you're dead. He Tian's voice came. Damn it, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Long Badeo was trapped in the clouds. He couldn't sense the mysterious woman's almost untraceable arrow at all. When he sensed danger, the extremely weak flame pierced through his shoulder. At this time, the mountain and river cauldron had already smashed a hole in the protective formation of the hall. Through this hole, everyone could sense an unusual aura in the hall. Azure Dragon saw this scene and couldn't help but roll his eyes. He wanted to sneak into the hall while everyone was dealing with Longbadeo and take away the 9-star alignment. However, when he saw that Gu Fei was looking at him, Azure Dragon did not dare to move. Since this human ancient martial art practitioner could kill Taoist Hong Jun and take away the 9-star alignment, a flawless sacred weapon, he had the ability to kill him. Buzz. At this moment, there was a sudden rumble in the hall. Then, rays of divine light shot out from the hall. Powerful energy ripples spread out from the rays of divine light. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. But they quickly reacted. Then, someone rushed into the sky and grabbed at the divine light. Divine weapons with intelligence. Even Gu Fei was shocked. The divine lights that had rushed out from the palace hall were all divine artifacts. Moreover, they were all intelligent objects. Once they sensed danger, they would automatically retreat. There were as many as 18 beams of divine light that rushed out from the hall. These divine weapons had been sealed in the hall by the original masters of this world. At this time, the formation was broken. The 18 divine weapons immediately changed. They turned into divine lights and rushed out, wanting to escape. The mysterious woman also rushed into the sky and used a great technique to grab at the divine lights. Clang. When the mysterious woman grabbed a beam of light, her expression immediately changed drastically. An extremely pure ripple of sword chi erupted from the thing in her hand. What? The mysterious woman was shocked. She wanted to let go of the sword in her hand, but at this time, her right hand was already a bloody mess. She was injured. This divine sword was definitely a killing sword. Even if there was no one to control it, the sword energy that spread out from the divine sword could still hurt people. The mysterious woman couldn't grab the divine sword and let it escape. Haha. Chapter 1876. The god weapons that were worthy of being collected by the ancient sages were naturally different. After the mountain and river cauldron broke the seal of the main hall, the 18 god weapons turned into light and soared into the sky, trying to escape. God weapons with spirits belonged to the fated. However, everyone present was an expert. How could they let these god weapons escape just like that? Swish. Someone made a move and grabbed a few god weapons. Haha. The Green Emperor laughed out loud. He grabbed a piece of golden god armor. This golden god armor trembled in his hand and wanted to fly away. However, it was restrained by his power. Good stuff. The Green Emperor looked at the golden god armor in his hand and was extremely excited. This was a flawless saint armor with saint-class Dao patterns on it. When worn, it could withstand attacks from saint-class experts. Buzz. Just as the Green Emperor grabbed the golden god armor, the mysterious woman made a move as well. She had her eyes on a killing sword. However, the killing sword buzzed and shook her hand away. This was a saint sword filled with killing intent. It was a flawless saint weapon, and the sword chi it emitted actually pierced through the mysterious woman's palm, causing her palm to be a mess of blood and flesh. The mysterious woman was extremely shocked. She could feel a cold sword chi invading her palm and moving up her arm. I'm at a disadvantage. The mysterious woman had no choice but to retreat. She then sat cross-legged on the roof of a pavilion in the God City and channeled her mystic technique to expel the sword chi from her arm. Such a strong killing intent. Gu Fei noticed the killing sword as well, and his heart skipped a beat. To be able to gather such a strong killing intent, how many living beings must have been killed? The original owner of the killing sword must have been a ruthless person who entered the Tao through killing. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the killing sword, completely unafraid of the sharp sword chi coming from the killing sword. As expected, the killing sword in the sky was grabbed by Gu Fei. Buzz. The killing sword was like an agile snake that struggled in Gu Fei's hand, trying to break free. However, Gu Fei's hand was gripping the killing sword tightly. No matter how the killing sword struggled, it couldn't break free from Gu Fei's control. Immortal slaying. Gu Fei saw that there were two ancient characters on the sword. The sword's name was Immortal Slaying. By then, the Green Emperor had already taken action one after another. He had already grabbed a few divine artifacts. However, there were 18 divine artifacts in total. It seemed as though some of the divine artifacts were about to fly away. "Boss, help me catch a few." Hei Tian's voice resounded in Gu Fei's heart. These divine tools were all flawless divine tools. He was extremely envious, but he was fighting with Long Badeo, so he couldn't grab them. Gu Fei used the omniscient void steps and dodged the middle-aged man's stab. Then, he pressed his palm towards the middle-aged man. A powerful force gushed out from his palm, causing the space in front of him to collapse. Yes, the middle-aged man was startled. He directly rushed up to the sky, wanting to dodge Gu Fei's palm. However, although the hall was not small, in Gu Fei's opinion, it was the most suitable place for close combat. He had already successfully closed in on the middle-aged man, so of course he wouldn't let the middle-aged man widen the distance between them just like that. Gu Fei followed like a shadow and attacked again. This time, he used the primal chaos fist. Bang! The middle-aged man was shocked and could only take a blow from Gu Fei. He only felt a stabbing pain in his hand. His wrist had already been shattered by the power of the demon spear. The demon spear almost flew out of his hand. What? The middle-aged man was shocked. He was a half-step saint, much higher than Gu Fei in terms of cultivation level, but his opponent was very strong. He had secretly observed the battle between Gu Fei and Taoist Hongjun. He knew that Gu Fei only survived because he used the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. If Gu Fei hadn't mastered the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, this human martial body would have been killed by Taoist Hongjun long ago. Chapter 1877. A martial artist's body was strong and their close combat skills were unmatched by other cultivators. Gu Fei was a martial saint, so his close combat skills were even more shocking. This was a combat skill that he had learned and perfected through countless life and death battles. There was nothing fancy about it. It was the most practical combat skill. It was simple and direct. Usually, he could kill his opponent with one move. In ancient times, no cultivator would dare to let a martial artist get close to them when they were fighting. Once a martial artist got close to them, it would mean death. Bang! In the main hall, Gu Fei was like a shadow, and with a single punch, he sent the middle-aged man flying. He was extremely powerful. Roar! The middle-aged man roared. Black demonic chi rushed out of his body. A layer of black scales appeared on his body, and his eyes turned blood red. Everyone has the right to kill those who practice demonic arts. Gu Fei shouted. He instantly chased after the middle-aged man and appeared above him. He then stomped on the middle-aged man's head. Rumble. As Gu Fei stepped on the middle-aged man, there was the sound of thunder and lightning under his right foot. Lightning flashed under his feet, and a destructive force came down. The middle-aged man didn't expect Gu Fei to be so fast. He attacked wave after wave, not giving him any chance to breathe. Gu Fei wanted to kill him with a thunderous method. Let's fight. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and raised the demonic spear in his hand to block. Boom. Gu Fei fiercely stomped on the demonic spear, causing it to bend downwards. An extremely ferocious power erupted under his feet. Bang! The middle-aged man was stomped down from the sky by Gu Fei's foot and smashed onto the floor of the hall. Wah! The middle-aged man coughed out a mouthful of blood. He felt like his entire body was falling apart. Every bone in his body was broken, and it was extremely painful. The floor of the hall was extremely hard. There wasn't even a crack under the middle-aged man's ferocious attack. The hard floor made the middle-aged man suffer. Half-step sage is just... Gu Fei said disdainfully. He didn't hold back and stomped on the middle-aged man again. This time, a tyrannical destructive force erupted from his left foot. This was the 8 kill steps. Gu Fei had taken the second step, and the power of the second step was several times that of the first step. Without any suspense, under the premise of close combat, Gu Fei succeeded in seriously injuring the half-step sage. When the second step of the 8 kill steps fell, the middle-aged man's chest collapsed, and his body was seriously injured. Roar! The middle-aged man roared as he desperately circulated his demonic arts, pushing Gu Fei back. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight, so he didn't dare to fight anymore. After pushing back Gu Fei, he crawled up from the ground and rushed out of the hall without looking back. He didn't even want the demonic spear that had fallen to the ground. At this time, escaping was the most important thing. Under the premise of survival, nothing else mattered. How could Gu Fei let this guy escape so easily? He kicked the demonic spear on the ground, and it immediately flew out. Puffed! The demonic spear instantly caught up with the middle-aged man and pierced through his back. A strong force pushed the half-step sage a few steps forward and nailed him to the ground. Just when the middle-aged man was nailed to the ground by the demonic spear, his head suddenly exploded. A demonic light wrapped around a small person and rushed to the sky, wanting to escape. Primordial spirit. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but be startled. This guy who had fallen into the demonic path was actually so decisive. He didn't even think before exploding his Niwen palace, allowing his primordial spirit to escape. Swoosh! Just when the demonic primordial spirit flew out of the hall, a divine arrow was shot from afar and hit the demonic primordial spirit. The demonic primordial spirit immediately collapsed. I can't accept this. When the primordial spirit of the devil Tao dissipated, it sent out an extremely weak wave of divine will. A figure flashed at the entrance of the hall, and the mysterious woman walked in. When she saw the ball of light floating in the hall, she couldn't help but be extremely shocked. This is, feeling the power of heaven and earth that spread from the divine pearl, the mysterious woman knew what it was. The source of heaven and earth. It's the source of heaven and earth. The mysterious woman was moved. The divine pearl before her was many times better than the 18 divine weapons. One should know that as long as this divine pearl was refined, the heaven and earth left behind by the sages would belong to that person. Although she was jealous, the mysterious woman didn't go forward. She knew that with Gu Fei here, this divine pearl of heaven and earth already had an owner. Gu Fei was extremely powerful. The mysterious woman knew that she wasn't a match for Gu Fei. As for Qiu Wuqing and the Green Emperor, they didn't even enter the hall. They knew that even if they entered, they wouldn't dare to attack Gu Fei. Gu Fei kept the mountain and river cauldron and sat in front of the divine pearl of heaven and earth. Looking at this magical pearl, even he couldn't help but be moved. One should know that this was a heaven and earth created by an ancient sage. Such a heaven and earth was naturally much better than his inner world. However, he had promised He Tian that this divine pearl of heaven and earth had already caught He Tian's eye. Haha, boss, thank you. He Tian laughed heartily. He knew that this heaven and earth created by the sage was about to have a new owner. And this owner was himself. Kill. He Tian attacked with all his might. He no longer had any worries. The void formation appeared and interweaved rays of destructive divine light, piercing towards Long Badeo, who was trapped in the formation. Long Badeo's cultivation and strength were still very strong. Although he was trapped in the formation, it was still very difficult for He Tian to kill this guy. Xianyin technique, frozen 30,000 miles. Long Badeo risked his life. He had just watched helplessly as his senior brother was killed by the mysterious woman's arrow. This made him shocked and angry. Endless Xianyin cold qi surged out from Long Badeo's body. Even the void seemed to be frozen. Countless formation runes immediately became dim. Even He Tian, who was in the depths of the formation, felt the bone-chilling cold. This guy, He Tian, couldn't help but be moved. The Xianyin Devil technique was very powerful, and the Xianyin Devil Qi was the nemesis of pure yang weapons and magical treasures. He didn't dare to be careless. Sun transformation, He Tian shouted. The killing formation that trapped Long Badeo was activated again. This time, the formation communicated with the power of fire of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Boom. Chapter 1878. Rumble. In the middle of the killing formation, divine fire filled the sky. Endless divine fire gathered towards the center of the formation. This was one of the changes in He Tian's formation, sun transformation. Long Ba Dao cultivated the black Yin devil art. His devil qi was extremely Yin and cold. His true yang energy was the nemesis of the black Yin devil qi. At the center of the killing formation, a divine sun was forming. Endless yang energy gathered and burned the void. It was as if a real sun had appeared in the middle of the killing formation. Seeing this scene, Everyone couldn't help but be moved. The true Yang essence was vast and mighty, and everyone could feel a blazing heat wave surging towards them. Roar! Long Ba Dao roared again and again. The true Yang energy was a great threat to him. The black Yin devil chi around him was constantly being destroyed by the true Yang energy. This wasn't a good thing. He Tian wanted to refine him to death. Long Ba Dao knew He Tian's intention, but he couldn't change anything unless he used his life-saving forbidden weapon. Otherwise, he would be in danger. You guys are ruthless. Long Ba Dao saw that the situation was far from good, and immediately took out his forbidden artifact. It was a pitch-black demonic plate. Without any hesitation, he took it out. Boom! The demonic disc flew up from Long Ba Dao's hand, and countless demonic runes rushed out from it. An unimaginably powerful demonic power rushed out from the demonic disc, directly piercing through the void between heaven and earth. This was a demonic Dao forbidden artifact that displayed tremendous demonic might. Even Black Sky's killing formation couldn't stop it. The demonic plate opened a spatial passage. Long Ba Dao wanted to rush into it, but at this time, the passage in front of him suddenly collapsed. Buzz! A deafening sound rang out, shaking the heavens and earth. An ancient cauldron came crashing down from the sky. A powerful shockwave spread out from the ancient cauldron. What? Long Ba Dao's shock was no small matter. One had to know that this life-saving forbidden tool of his could only be used once. Unless it was a life and death situation, he would never use it. However, to his disbelief, his forbidden weapon lost its effect. The ancient cauldron suppressed everything, blocking all his escape routes. Want to escape? Have you asked for my permission? A voice resounded. At this time, a figure walked out from the main hall. This person was Gu Fei. Gu Fei was holding a divine light in his hand. Haha, He Tian laughed. The divine light in Gu Fei's hand was emitting pure heaven and earth energy. Needless to say, this divine light was the origin of heaven and earth. Kill. At this moment, it was as though my Tian was on steroids. His entire aura was different as he attacked with all his might. The killing formation was activated, and within the formation, a divine sun was forming. You dare to kill me? This time, Long Ba Dao's expression changed. Countless cracks appeared on the demonic disc in the sky. Then, it crumbled and lost its demonic nature. Why not? Who do you think you are? He Tian said disdainfully. Endless divine light trapped Long Ba Dao in the killing formation. Endless pure Yang energy was evolving into a divine sun. Long Ba Dao's demonic energy was constantly being destroyed. Kill me, and you won't be able to live either. Long Ba Dao roared. He was truly afraid. He couldn't escape even after using his forbidden weapon. He was truly trapped. Is that so? Hearing this, Gu Fei's pupils involuntarily shrank. He took a step forward and entered the Black Sky's killing formation, quickly approaching Long Ba Dao, who was trapped in the center of the formation. You! Long Ba Dao sensed Gu Fei's arrival and turned pale with fright. Bang! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei directly used the heaven-covering palm. A huge palm covered the sky, enveloping Long Ba Dao and then slammed down. Black Yin Devil Body. Long Ba Dao didn't dare to be careless. He didn't want to die either. He was the most outstanding genius of extraterrestrial divine mountain and the only son of the mountain master. He was destined to take over extraterrestrial divine mountain in the future. How could he die here? A powerful demonic energy burst out of Long Ba Dao's body. Almost instantly, a layer of black scales appeared on his body. A silver horn grew out of his forehead, and his eyes turned blue and black. Ah! Long Ba Dao let out a beast-like sound. His body emitted the sound of bones rubbing against each other. His height increased by a full 3 feet. The extremely cold black Yin Devil Chi spread out from his body and unexpectedly resisted the pure Yang energy of He Tian's killing formation. The divine fire couldn't get close to him. Bang! Long Ba Dao sent out a palm to meet Gu Fei's heaven-covering palm head-on. Two powerful forces collided in an instant. The void was annihilated, and the surrounding divine fire was affected, dissipating in the void. What? Long Ba Dao withstood Gu Fei's attack, which surprised everyone. One should know that Gu Fei had even defeated the half-step devil saint of extraterrestrial divine mountain. Gu Fei's heaven-covering palm dissipated in the void. Why did he choose to be a demon instead of a human? Everyone present disdained Long Ba Dao's behavior, but they had to admit that the Black Yin devil body was really strong. The Black Yin cold chi seemed to have frozen the void around him. What's wrong with being a demon? You can be free and do whatever you want without any scruples. Long Ba Dao's voice sounded. Eat my fist. Gu Fei held a ball of divine light in his left hand and clenched his right hand into a fist. He then punched towards Long Ba Dao. There was no violent power fluctuation, nor was there any dazzling divine light. It seemed to be an ordinary punch. It was this punch that shocked Long Ba Dao. This seemingly ordinary punch made Long Ba Dao feel that it was hard to dodge. There was no powerful fluctuation, but the fist intent of Gu Fei's punch made Long Ba Dao turn pale with fright. Gu Fei was really forcing him to take it head-on. It was hard to avoid. He could only go all out. Black Yin Great Capture. Long Ba Dao stretched out his hand and displayed a great demon technique. A huge hand met Gu Fei's punch, and a powerful magic fluctuation spread out from that huge hand. Bang! Gu Fei's fist smashed into Long Ba Dao's huge hand. This time, Gu Fei's seemingly casual punch contained an extremely powerful force. It was a move that could turn something rotten into something magical. Long Ba Dao's huge hand was immediately shattered. Long Ba Dao was sent flying hundreds of meters away by Gu Fei's punch before he could stabilize himself. A trace of scarlet blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. How is this possible? Long Ba Dao was extremely shocked. His opponent's power was too strong. He could actually hurt his Black Yin devil body. It was really unbelievable. Without any suspense, even if Long Ba Dao used his Black Yin devil body, he was still no match for Gu Fei. Gu Fei's punch shattered his Black Yin devil body. Gu Fei did not care where Long Ba Dao came from or what kind of background he had. He killed him. You will regret it. Long Ba Dao's spirit soared into the sky, wanting to escape. You are the one who will regret it. Gu Fei stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Long Ba Dao's spirit back. Don't kill me. At this time, Long Ba Dao did not care so much. He hurriedly begged for mercy from Gu Fei. If his Black Yin devil body had not been destroyed by Gu Fei, he would have already knelt at Gu Fei's feet. Gu Fei did not hesitate and directly crushed Long Ba Dao's spirit. The most outstanding descendant of extraterrestrial divine mountain died in the hands of Gu Fei. Both his body and spirit were destroyed. Roar! At the moment when Gu Fei killed Long Ba Dao, in the depths of the starry sky, in a chaotic void, there was an earth-shattering roar. Who killed my son? In the depths of the chaos, there was another world. It was an almost perfect world. There was no large land here, only mountains floating in the void. This was the mysterious sky beyond heaven. Since ancient times, there were not many people who could find sky beyond heaven. Extraterrestrial divine mountain was in the depths of sky beyond heaven. There was an incomparably huge divine mountain there. At this time, on the divine mountain, there was a mighty aura. A demonic shadow loomed on the peak of the divine mountain. My son is actually dead. No matter who it is, whoever dared to kill my son must die. The demonic shadow roared. All the creatures on the divine mountain were trembling. Many demonic experts rushed out, inexplicably shocked. Long Ba Dao was dead. Extraterrestrial divine mountain was under the control of the demonic path. The demonic shadow on the peak was the mountain master of extraterrestrial divine mountain. No one knew how powerful the mountain master of extraterrestrial divine mountain was, but the demonic experts on the divine mountain knew how powerful and terrifying Long Ba Dao was. Long Ba Dao was a half-demon saint. His son was already so powerful, let alone his father. Where is Wind Demon? The demonic shadow on the peak was summoning the experts under his command. Whoosh! A gust of black wind blew on the divine mountain without warning. In the black wind, there was a figure faintly discernible. The black wind blew directly to the peak of extraterrestrial divine mountain. When it reached the peak, the black wind suddenly disappeared, and a man in black walked out. Greetings, Mountain Master. The man bowed to the demonic shadow on the peak. "Go and capture the man who killed my son." The mountain master directly ordered Wind Demon.
Yes.
The man then turned into a gust of black wind and rushed out from the peak, quickly disappearing into the distance. At this time, Gu Fei killed Long Ba Dao and gave the divine light in his hand to He Tian. Although everyone was extremely jealous, they did not dare to snatch the thing in Gu Fei's hand. However, Gu Fei and the others did not know that the mountain master of extraterrestrial divine mountain had sent an extremely powerful demonic expert to capture Gu Fei. After He Tian obtained the origin of heaven and earth of this world, he immediately began to refine the origin of heaven and earth. He wanted to merge this world with his formation world. Chapter 1879. Refining a source of heaven and earth was not an easy task. Back then, when Gu Fei refined the source of heaven and earth from the Naraka Tao, it took him hundreds of years. Of course, the world created by the ancient sage could not be compared to the Naraka Tao at all. The Naraka Tao was one of the 6 Taos created by the ancient Buddha. The heaven and earth refined by the ancient Buddhist Lord was already infinitely close to the flawless great heaven and earth. However, the heaven and earth created by the sage was worlds apart from the flawless great heaven and earth. In the divine city, a ball of divine light floated in front of He Tian. Above this ball of divine light, the aura of heaven and earth permeated. This ball of divine light was one with the surrounding void. The laws of heaven and earth in this world originated from this ball of divine light. He Tian was refining this ball of divine light. However, the progress was extremely slow. This was because this ball of divine light was imprinted with the mark of the ancient sage. Only by erasing the imprint left behind by the ancient sage and branding it with his own would Black Heaven be considered to have refined this part of the world. However, how could the mark left by the ancient sage be so easily erased? Even though He Tian had reincarnated countless times, he had no way of dealing with the great Tao mark left by the ancient sage. He could only use the method of consumption to erase the great Tao mark in the source of heaven and earth. He Tian wanted to use his own strength to slowly erase the great Tao mark in the source of heaven and earth. Gu Fei was protecting He Tian. If not for Gu Fei, the Green Emperor would probably be the first to rush up and attack He Tian to snatch the source of heaven and earth. However, with Gu Fei protecting He Tian, no one dared to act rashly. Qiu Wuqing and the mysterious woman were waiting patiently. This matter could not be rushed. They also did not want to offend Gu Fei. They could only wait for He Tian to refine the source of divine light. Only the Green Emperor was a little frustrated. He was also a little worried. Once He Tian refined the heaven and earth source of this world, would he attack him? The Green Emperor's worries were not without reason. As long as He Tian refined the heaven and earth source of this world, he would be the ruler of this world. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for He Tian to destroy the Green Emperor. However, the Green Emperor did not dare to do anything to He Tian. Wherever Gu Fei stood guard, who in this world could touch He Tian? Everyone was waiting, but their moods were different. He waited for half a year. At this time, the ball of divine light in front of He Tian grew brighter and brighter. The imprint of the great path left behind by the ancient sages within the divine light was finally shaken by him. Although He Tian's method would take a long time, it was the safest method. There was no day or night in cultivation. He Tian sat there for 10 years. During these 10 years, Gu Fei's cultivation made another breakthrough. He had accumulated a lot of experience, and his cultivation rose from the first layer of half-step saint to the third layer of half-step saint. After the breakthrough, Gu Fei's vital energy and blood became stronger. Every move he made seemed to be able to shake the void of heaven and earth. His cultivation had become even more unfathomable. A martial artist at the third heaven of the half-saint realm could even fight against a quasi-saint without relying on any external forces. In the divine city, the others were also cultivating. Qiu Wuqing's talent was simply heaven-defying. During these 10 years, he had actually improved by a major realm and became a sage to be. The mysterious woman had also improved. Although she had not broken through to the sage-to-be realm, her cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the sage-to-be realm. The Green Emperor, one of the 4 giants, was still a half-step sage. During these 10 years, the Green Emperor's cultivation had not improved at all. This was because he would become a sage if he improved any further. However, sages were not allowed to appear in this part of the world. Rumble. On this day, a thunderous sound came from where Haitian was. Rays of divine light rushed out from the source of heaven and earth in front of him and then dissipated in the void. At this time, Haitian spat out a mouthful of blood towards the ball of divine light in front of him. This was Haitian's blood essence. Each drop contained Haitian's life imprint. This was the blood of his heart, which was incomparably precious. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Haitian's expression immediately became weary. Erebus's heart blood was completely absorbed by the ball of divine light as soon as it touched the ball of divine light. It's done. Although Haitian's expression was weary, he was still extremely excited. 10 years. He had been cultivating this ball of divine light day and night for 10 years, not daring to be distracted. At this time, he had finally gotten something. Virum. After devouring the blood of Haitian, the ball of divine light vibrated continuously and let out a loud sound. A series of blood-colored Tao patterns appeared on the divine light. That was the imprint of Haitian's Tao. At that moment, Mahakala's mark of the Great Path replaced that of the ancient sage. Then, the ball of divine light began to recede, and soon, a matured, fist-sized orb appeared before everyone's eyes. I finally succeeded. Seeing this, Gu Fei could not help but heave a sigh of relief. When everyone else saw that Haitian had cultivated the source of heaven and earth, they let out different expressions. This was especially so for the Green Emperor. Right now, the Green Emperor was filled with jealousy and hatred. Haha! Haitian laughed out loud as he stood up from the ground. He had expended quite a lot of energy. If he wanted to recover completely, he would need some time. However, it was all worth it. Even if his energy was greatly damaged, it was still worth it. Swoosh! Haitian kept the pearl into his body. The pearl entered Haitian's Niwen palace. Then, with a single thought from Haitian, the entire world shook. Swoosh! A beam of divine light shot out from Haitian's glabella, opening up a spatial passageway. Those who wish to head out, please do so. Haitian opened up the passageway between this world and the outside world. The Green Emperor was the first to rush into the sky and disappear into the spatial passageway. He did not want to stay here for a moment longer. The outside world was the place for him to show off his skills. Qiu Wuqing and the mysterious woman left as well. They had stayed here for 10 years and did not know what was happening in the human realm. After everyone left, Gu Fei was the last to leave. Haitian wanted to try and fuse the world created by the sage into his own world of formations. Therefore, he did not want to head out. Gu Fei naturally knew what Haitian wanted to do. Without any hesitation, he left this world. This is, when Gu Fei came out of the spatial passageway, he realized that he was still on a red star. This was a huge, barren star. However, there were many ancient beasts lurking on this huge star. Roar. Chapter 1880. Gu Fei exited the Sage Realm and appeared in an unknown region of the vast Crimson Planet. The place was filled with red sand, and the surrounding terrain was undulating with many hills. This was a region without any signs of life. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. On this Crimson Planet, the spiritual qi was so thin that it was almost non-existent. However, in such a place, there were many powerful beasts lurking. Roar. Just as Gu Fei was about to leave this region, a roar was heard from behind a nearby hill. Then, an exotic beast scuttled out from behind the hill and pounced at Gu Fei. Gu Fei moved and instantly disappeared from where he was. The next moment, his figure appeared thousands of feet away at an extremely fast speed. Boom! With a loud noise, the crimson sand filled the sky. The exotic beast pounced down from the sky, and the place where Gu Fei was originally standing was instantly destroyed. A ferocious and ruthless aura began to spread in the air. At this moment, Gu Fei had a clear view of the exotic beast. It was red all over and covered with a thick layer of red scales. There was a black horn on its head, and there was a yellow light lingering on it. This was an unknown exotic beast. At least, Gu Fei had never seen it before, nor had it appeared in the ancient books that he had read. Evil creature, you're courting death. Although this exotic beast was powerful, its strength was at most at the peak of the almighty realm. Compared to the two exotic beasts that Gu Fei encountered when he first came to this crimson planet, it was far weaker. Swoosh! Gu Fei pointed a finger, and a chaotic ray of light immediately shot out from the tip of his finger, directly piercing the forehead of this unknown exotic beast. A stream of blue blood rushed out from the eyebrows of the exotic beast. Then, with a boom, the exotic beast fell on the red sand, twitched a few times, and stopped moving. Boom! Just as Gu Fei killed the exotic beast, a loud sound rang out from afar. Gu Fei felt the entire ground trembling. The red sand on the ground undulated like waves, and a shockwave spread out. What happened? Gu Fei was startled. This kind of fluctuation was a bit shocking. It was as if most of the star had been shaken. Could it be that something big had happened on this star? Although the Crimson Star was not as huge as the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, it was not small either. A power that could move half of the Crimson Star was already very shocking and terrifying. Shwa! Gu Fei disappeared from where he was and rushed in the direction of the fluctuation. In next to no time, he saw a crimson-colored wave appear in front of him. Yes, it was a wave. A wave that was completely formed from crimson sand was surging towards him, and this wave was over 10 kilometers tall. Gu Fei could not help but be moved. He rushed into the sky and dodged this wave. Seeing this wave surging behind him, even Gu Fei could not help but be shocked. What kind of power could form this wave that affected more than half of the Crimson Star? Buzz! Just as Gu Fei was shocked, the void in front of him suddenly trembled. Looking from afar, he saw that tens of thousands of miles away, there were rays of divine light rushing up, and terrifying energy fluctuations appeared again. What is that? Gu Fei discovered that within the rays of divine light, there were actually Tao patterns, and they were ancient Tao patterns. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out, and a shocking evil aura appeared in the sky. A huge figure stood up from the ground. What? At this time, Gu Fei could not stay calm. The Crimson Star was not simple, and it seemed to have sealed a peerless evil demon. At this time, the evil demon had appeared, and it was world-shaking. What is going on? Is it related to the grotto heaven of the ancient sage? It was already abnormal for the ancient sage's grotto heaven to appear on this barren crimson star. Now that the evil demon had appeared, Gu Fei seemed to have thought of something. Roar! The figure that stood up from the ground roared into the sky, and the terrifying sound waves spread in all directions. The figure was entangled by many metal chains. 9 rays of divine light descended from the sky and entangled the figure, binding it tightly. This was a kind of confinement technique. The divine chains of the Great Path had bound the evil demon in the void of this world, trapping it there. Boom! Dazzling lightning appeared in the sky above the Crimson Star, and a power of heaven and earth appeared in the sky above the figure. The power of the evil demon had exceeded the limit allowed by this world, and a heavenly tribulation of extermination was about to descend. Where is Meng Tian? A spiritual consciousness spread out from the figure, and a voice sounded in Gu Fei's mind. Boom! At this moment, the void above the figure suddenly collapsed. A god city broke through the void and appeared above the head of the evil demon. Buzz! The void shook, and a shocking power exploded from the divine city. Then, the entire divine city pressed down on the figure below. When Gu Fei saw the palace, he could not help but be extremely shocked. The appearance of the palace confirmed his guess. The ancient sage indeed had a conflict with the evil demon. Rumble! Hundreds of millions of lightning bolts raged in the sky, and a heavenly tribulation of extermination descended. That was because 2 powers that surpassed the sage level had appeared in this world. The powers that surpassed the sage level could threaten the great Tao laws of this world. The heavenly Tao sensed the threat, and hence, sent down countless heavenly lightning. The countless heavenly lightning engulfed half of the Crimson Star. Gu Fei quickly retreated. The heavenly lightning of extermination was extremely powerful, and it was much more powerful than the heavenly tribulation of a half-sage. If Gu Fei was struck by the heavenly lightning of extermination, his body and soul would be destroyed. The countless heavenly lightning of extermination was wreaking havoc, and the entire Crimson Star was shaking. Many beasts that were hiding in the Crimson Star escaped. The heavenly lightning of extermination covered a huge area, and most of the beasts were destroyed by the sudden heavenly lightning of extermination. At this moment, half of the Crimson Star was engulfed by the heavenly lightning of extermination. However, the divine city was safe and sound amidst the endless heavenly lightning of extermination. Not a single heavenly lightning of extermination could land on the divine city. The powerful evil demon was also fine in the sea of lightning. The power of the heavenly lightning of extermination could not get close to it. The evil demon that had been sealed for countless years was too powerful. In the current world, existences that surpassed the sage level were not allowed to appear. The world felt threatened, and hence, a terrifying heavenly lightning of extermination was about to descend. Chapter 1881. No one knew how powerful the power of a universe was. Even a sage would not dare to go against the power of the entire universe. Although a sage could break the restraint of the great Tao of heaven and earth, going against the power of the entire universe was an entirely different matter. The appearance of two powers that surpassed the sage level on the Scarlet Star had already made the great Tao of heaven and earth feel threatened. Hence, a heaven calamity of annihilation descended. Endless thunder calamity almost engulfed the entire Scarlet Star. Even in the starry sky, the heaven calamity was extremely dazzling. What's going on? How can there be such existences in this universe? Those guys have returned. When the two earth-shattering powers appeared on the Scarlet Star, the invincible existences on the soaring dragon ancestral star that was thousands of miles away from the Scarlet Star sensed the changes on the Scarlet Star immediately. Rumble. In an extremely hidden mountain on the soaring dragon ancestral star, a lifeless god city tore the void and appeared in the sky above the mountain. In the main hall of the god city sat a supreme ghost Tao. This supreme ghost Tao was Ghost Emperor Fengdu, who had created the ghost cultivation path and had lived for countless years. This god city was the legendary ghost city of Fengdu. There were 10 halls in the city, and the legendary 10-court Yama resided in the 10 halls. Swoosh. In the main hall, Ghost Emperor Fengdu's gaze tore through the void and saw through the universe. He saw the extremely huge figure on the Scarlet Star under the heaven calamity. I've already killed the evil lord. I didn't expect there to be another existence that is comparable to the evil lord. Ghost Emperor Fengdu muttered to himself. That day, he had displayed his great divine power and killed Thousand Illusion Evil Lord. That battle was extremely intense and earth-shattering. However, although Thousand Illusion Evil Lord was powerful, he was still killed by Ghost Emperor Fengdu. At the same time, in the sky above a devil's den in the northern devil region, a man who was sitting on the yin-yang divine pattern looked up into the sky. His gaze crossed the endless starry sky and landed on the Scarlet Star. Meng Tian and Xian Xie. The man on the yin-yang divine pattern said, "These two guys have been fighting for their entire lives. Are they still fighting now?" In the 10,000 great mountains of the southern wasteland, an old man chopping firewood stopped, raised his head to look at the sky, and then muttered to himself. After that, the old man continued to wave the rusty machete in his hand. Roar. From the depths of the abyss of immortals and demons, at the border between the northern demon region and the northern demon region, came a terrifying roar. The other regions of the soaring dragon ancestral star also sensed the energy ripples of supreme experts. What had happened on the Crimson Planet had alarmed these supreme experts who had never shown themselves. Roar. Meng Tian. You want to suppress me with a god city when you are not here in person. What a joke. On the Crimson Star, evil Lord Xian Xie, who was bound by the divine chains of the Great Path, was howling. His howls reverberated in all directions. Around Xian Xie, on the ground and in the air, matrix patterns appeared. These array patterns were all Saint King Great Array patterns, and it was a killing array. Back then, evil Lord Xian Xie and King Sage Meng Tian fought in the galaxy. In the end, King Sage Meng Tian defeated Xian Xie and suppressed him on the Crimson Planet. In fact, the Crimson Planet was not a lifeless planet. Most of the planets that were adjacent to the soaring dragon ancestral star had lives. It was because of that battle that the planet became a barren land. Rumble. It was not a big deal for the God City to suppress him from the sky. However, the God City actually triggered the power of the exterminating heavenly tribulation and suppressed Xian Xie with the power of the exterminating heavenly tribulation. What? Xian Xie was shocked. How was this possible? Could it be that Meng Tian's cultivation level had reached the stage where he could control the Heaven Dao? This was definitely impossible. If Meng Tian's cultivation level had reached the stage where he could control the Heaven Dao, he would have become an extreme grade supreme being long ago. If Meng Tian was already an extreme grade supreme being, he would be able to kill Xian Xie effortlessly and would not need to suppress him on the Crimson Planet. In the God City, there was a wave that resonated with the power of the exterminating heavenly tribulation and triggered the terrifying power that could destroy everything in the world. Roar. Xian Xie was ferocious. He roared towards the sky, and his white hair danced wildly. The divine chains of the great path on his body clanged, and he used a supreme technique to create a black hole. Boom! A heaven-devouring power surged out from the black hole and devoured everything in the world. Even the power of the exterminating heavenly tribulation was shaken, and it was extremely terrifying. Countless bolts of lightning were devoured by the black hole. The God City was shaking, and it was being pulled towards the black hole by the black hole. This, tens of thousands of miles away, Gu Fei couldn't help being shocked when he saw this scene. Could it be that Erebus was still in the Divine City? This wasn't a good thing. Swoosh! Just as the God City was being pulled towards the heaven-devouring power from the black hole, a figure stood up from the God City, and a terrifying aura of a king of sages could be felt from the figure. Buzz! The void shook and the faint figure formed a seal with his hands. The boundless power of the heavenly tribulation was triggered by the figure and struck towards the black hole below. Chapter 1882. The arrival of Ghost Emperor Fengdu shocked the evil lord who had just broken out of the seal and hid in the seal again. Gu Fei was in disbelief. What's going on? Such a thing was too outrageous. Could it be that Ghost Emperor Fengdu could actually kill such an existence? Gu Fei was indescribably shocked. White-robed Ghost Emperor stood quietly in the starry sky and watched the scene on the Crimson Star. He did not make a move. When he saw the Divine City pressing down and sealing the evil lord again, he turned and left. Roar! A deep roar was heard from below the Divine City. Xian Xie evil lord was unwilling to give up. He had spent a lot of time and effort to break out of Sage King Meng Tian's seal. However, he actually encountered that person when he came out. Rumble! Sage King Dao pattern surged out of the Divine City, and the seal that Meng Tian had set up was being repaired rapidly. This time, the power of the seal was much stronger than before. Meng Tian, you can't stop me. Xian Xie evil lord's voice was heard from the Crimson Star. However, his voice soon disappeared as the power of the seal isolated everything. As the seal was repaired, the two powers that surpassed the sage level also disappeared. The terrifying destructive heavenly tribulation lost its target and gradually dissipated in the void. In this short period of time, more than half of the Crimson Star was destroyed. The ground collapsed, red sand filled the sky, and countless beasts died. Most of the beasts were actually the descendants of the followers of the Evil Lord. Back then, Xian Xie Evil Lord dominated the Chaos era and had many followers. The entire Crimson Star was a prison that sealed the Evil Lord. Gu Fei did not expect an unparalleled evil demon to be sealed on the Crimson Star. It was a supreme being from the ancient era that could go against a king of sages. If the evil demon was allowed to be born, there would not be many people who could go against the evil demon in this world without sages. Hey Tian. When Gu Fei came back to his senses, his expression couldn't help but greatly change. When he came out of the ancient sage's world, Hey Tian was still in the Divine City. But now, that God City had shattered the void and appeared on Crimson Star. Moreover, it had suppressed that evil demon again. Was Tian still in God City?
Schwa.
Gu Fei used the 8 desolate void steps, displaying the world's fastest speed as he rushed towards the Divine City. When Gu Fei arrived near the Divine City, he couldn't help feeling bewildered. There was no aura of life coming from the Divine City. In other words, there were no living beings in the Divine City. Even the stone men in the Divine City had disappeared. The Divine City was silent. There was no sound at all. This was an empty city. Nothing had changed in the city, but it lacked vitality. Old Black. Gu Fei's spiritual will entered the God City, but he didn't discover anything. Tian wasn't in the God City, which made him heave a sigh of relief. That guy should still be in that world. Gu Fei muttered to himself. Tian had obtained the origin source of the world created by the sage. The first thing he had to do was to refine that origin source. Perhaps Tian had left the Divine City when he saw that the situation wasn't looking good. Gu Fei wandered around the Divine City for an hour, but he didn't discover anything. Thus, he left Crimson Star and headed in the direction of the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. The Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star was different from the Crimson Star. The Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star was many times larger than the Crimson Star. The vast star gave off a suffocating pressure. The Soaring Dragon continent was just a part of the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. The Soaring Dragon continent didn't even occupy 1/10 of the entire Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. However, the areas outside of the Soaring Dragon continent were mostly inaccessible places. Some places were even shrouded in demonic chi. One look and anyone could tell that they were forbidden lands. Some areas were filled with demonic chi. It was very likely that they were the territories of the demon race. It's too big. It was Gu Fei's first time looking at the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star in the starry sky. The vast aura shocked him to the extreme. The Ancestral Star seemed to have more than one supreme great Tao Law. It was unusual for an ancestral star to have such a situation. It should be known that only ancestral stars that had produced a few supreme great Taos would have such a phenomenon, where several supreme great Taos coexisted. When a supreme achieved the Tao in an ancestral star, the ancestral star would have the supreme great Tao imprint of the supreme great Taos. On the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, there was more than one supreme. The situation of several supreme great Taos coexisting was rare even in the ancient untainted land. It seemed that it was difficult for supreme great Taos to meet each other. For example, during the era of the Supreme Tao Ancestor, the ancient Buddha Lord would not have appeared to compete with the Supreme Tao Ancestor. It was said that the collapse of the ancient untainted land was likely due to a battle between supreme great Taos. Of course, this was only a legend. However, it wasn't impossible. It should be known that a battle between supreme great Taos could destroy a large area of the world. Gu Fei charged toward the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star with his 8 steps extreme speed. Just as Gu Fei was about to reach the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, he suddenly realized that there were countless ruins floating in the sky 100,000 li away from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. That's a huge pile of ruins floating in the sky shocked Gu Fei. Could it be that there was a huge battle outside the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star? Gu Fei immediately changed his direction and flew toward the ruins. A distance of 100,000 li was considered a long distance in Gu Fei's eyes. It took him half an hour to get close to the ruins. He saw countless broken bricks, rocks, and mud floating in the ruins. There were even corpses of cultivators mixed among them. An ancient battlefield. Gu Fei finally realized what he had encountered. This was a battlefield within the starry skies, one that had existed for an extremely long time. Broken weapons, mutilated corpses, everything made Gu Fei's scalp go numb. The ancient battlefield in the sky was huge, covering a radius of 100,000 li. Moreover, it wasn't static, but moving. It was unknown how long this ancient battlefield had been floating in the sky. At this moment, Gu Fei wasn't in the mood to explore. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly sensed something. How is this possible? He sensed an extremely weak aura of life. In this lifeless ancient battlefield, there was actually an aura of life. This made him feel very surprised. Without any hesitation, Gu Fei walked in the direction of the weak life aura. Soon, Gu Fei approached the place where the presence of life was coming from. What he saw next almost made him lose control. It was a transparent crystal coffin. Chapter 1883. In the depths of the ancient battlefield of the stars, a crystal coffin was floating. The appearance of a crystal coffin in this deathly silent ancient battlefield was a bit strange. When Gu Fei saw this crystal coffin, he felt his scalp tingle. He had seen this crystal coffin before. Inside the transparent crystal coffin, there was a sleeping woman. How could the crystal coffin from the eternally ominous city appear here? All of this was inexplicable, which made Gu Fei horrified. When this crystal coffin appeared, it was extremely terrifying. Even an existence like Ghost Emperor Fengdu couldn't do anything to it. The woman inside the crystal coffin should be the remains of a supreme. However, this supreme's remains had changed and were sealed in the eternally ominous city by other supremes. That day, the virtual sky world attracted countless experts to fight for the supreme treasure of the eternally ominous city, but in the end, the crystal coffin appeared and the supreme experts of the human realm also came. That battle even reached the depths of the primal chaos, and even the eternally ominous city was half destroyed. The crystal coffin that escaped that day actually appeared here. Moreover, the breath of life in this battlefield of the stars originated from the crystal coffin. Reborn from death, this is too heaven-defying. Gu Fei knew that the woman inside the crystal coffin was incredible. After being dead for countless years, she unexpectedly gained vitality and showed signs of rebirth. He didn't dare to approach it. Even a supreme expert like Ghost Emperor Fengdu couldn't do anything to this crystal coffin. If he approached it, he might not even know how he died. Gu Fei was about to retreat, but at this time, he suddenly had a creepy feeling as if something extremely dangerous was peeping at him. In the ancient battlefield of the stars, there were a lot of broken weapons and even skeletons. Some ancient corpses were still dripping with blood. After countless years, their bodies were still immortal. Could it be that there is some evil existence here? Gu Fei's heart trembled. He used 8 desolate void steps and quickly retreated back the way he came. He wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Boom! At this time, the entire ancient battlefield suddenly shook. The countless fragments scattered in all directions quickly gathered together, and a terrifying breath of death appeared between heaven and earth. Gu Fei was incomparably shocked. Sure enough, there was an incomparably powerful evil spying on him from the side. When he wanted to retreat, this evil hidden in the dark immediately jumped out and intercepted him. The deathly aura was vast and boundless as countless fragments flew over from all directions. They then fused together and a gigantic figure appeared in the middle of this space battlefield. Gu Fei could clearly sense how powerful this evil being was, because the black aura of death had almost condensed to the point of being solid, turning into rays of black light that lingered around the huge figure. This demon had concealed itself very well. Even Gu Fei had been deceived. At this time, the death aura seemed to have appeared out of thin air. It was incomparably abrupt. Haha, what a powerful blood essence. A divine will came from the 10,000 zhang tall figure in front of him, and a voice rang out in Gu Fei's mind. Rumble. The void was shaking. Countless fragments actually formed a 10,000 zhang tall humanoid monster. 2 rays of blood light shot out from its gigantic head. The powerful deathly aura shook the surrounding void. This was a very strange evil being. Its battle prowess had most likely reached the Saint Realm. That kind of powerful aura caused even Gu Fei to not have any thoughts of resisting. However, the strange thing was that despite such a powerful existence, the heaven and earth actually didn't send down a heaven's calamity. Such an existence was not allowed to exist. The ancient battlefield was 100,000 miles in radius. The deathly aura of the entire ancient battlefield seemed to have gathered on the body of this humanoid monster. This was a strange type of undead creature. To think that it could actually avoid the detection of the heaven and earth. From a certain perspective, this undead creature couldn't be considered as a real living creature. Perhaps it was because of this that the heaven and earth didn't send down a heaven's calamity. Human, contribute your essence blood. The humanoid monster stood there, and the void around it was trembling. Black spatial cracks kept appearing and being repaired by the power of the heaven and earth. Contribute your head. Although Gu Fei was shocked, he wasn't that afraid of this humanoid monster. Because although this humanoid monster was strong, it was still far from being comparable to a real saint. Touch. The humanoid monster didn't say anything else. It directly stretched out its huge hand and grabbed at Gu Fei. The vigorous qi and blood on Gu Fei's body was the nourishment that this undead creature needed. All undead creatures had one thing in common, and that was to increase their strength by devouring life essence. Buzz. A huge cauldron emerged from the void around Gu Fei's body. It wrapped around Gu Fei and instantly retreated tens of thousands of feet away. The place where Gu Fei was just a moment ago was immediately hit by the huge hand. A chaotic hole with a radius of thousands of feet was formed. The void between the heaven and earth was directly penetrated. Seeing this, Gu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. This monster was able to cause such destruction with just a casual attack. It was really shocking. Do you think you can escape? The divine will transmitted and a voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. At this time, Gu Fei no longer paid attention to the monster. He directly turned around and left. With his current cultivation and combat power, he wasn't a match for this monster at all. Only an existence like Ghost Emperor Fengdu might be able to suppress this guy. Rumble. Seeing that Gu Fei wanted to escape, the monster immediately chased after him. Its powerful force shook the heaven and earth. With just one step, the monster overtook Gu Fei and intercepted him. What? Gu Fei's shock was no small matter. How could the other party's speed be so fast? However, he quickly understood that the opponent's strength had reached the saint level and was much stronger than him. They couldn't be compared at all. The opponent wasn't proficient in any kind of extreme speed technique, but with just one step, the opponent could instantly cross a distance of tens of thousands of feet. Swish. The monster stretched out its huge hand and grabbed towards Gu Fei. This time, the monster's huge hand enveloped the heaven and earth and sealed all of Gu Fei's escape routes. Gu Fei could feel that the void around him seemed to have frozen in an instant. He couldn't open his inner world even if he wanted to. At this time, he finally understood the terrifying power of the saint level. So what if the saint level had cultivated his inner world? When the saint level's power released a restrictive force, he couldn't open his inner world at all. Chapter 1884. The humanoid monster was extremely powerful. It was a different kind of saint tier life form. The power of the saint tier could confine the void between heaven and earth. Gu Fei could not even hide in his inner world. Boom. The humanoid monster extended its hand and grabbed at Gu Fei. The powerful saint tier power made Gu Fei unable to resist it. If not for the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, he might not even be able to stand. Roar. At this critical moment, Gu Fei roared angrily. An ancient cauldron rushed out of his body. This was not the shadow of the ancient cauldron, but the real body of the mountain and river cauldron. At this moment, he had no choice but to use the extreme saint weapon to protect his life. The opponent was too much stronger than him. However, just as the humanoid monster attacked Gu Fei, the crystal coffin floating in the void suddenly shook. Bang! The humanoid monster's body suddenly exploded. The crystal coffin appeared where the humanoid monster was. Then, an endless aura of death gathered towards the crystal coffin. Gu Fei escaped death. He could not help but be shocked. After the humanoid monster was hit by the crystal coffin, it turned into a vast aura of death. Meanwhile, the crystal coffin was crazily devouring the surrounding aura of death. Just as the crystal coffin smashed into the humanoid monster's body, Gu Fei felt his body loosen up. The invisible pressure immediately disappeared. Roar. The humanoid monsters will let out an unwilling roar. The aura of death was continuously devoured by the crystal coffin. However, the crystal coffin shone with various divine lights. The endless aura of death was actually being converted into spiritual energy. Seeing this, Gu Fei could not help but be stunned. The method of converting the aura of death into spiritual energy was too shocking. Could it be that the crystal coffin appeared in this ancient battlefield of the stars because of the aura of death? If that was the case, then the woman in the crystal coffin was really going to be reincarnated against the heavens. This was a saint-level death energy, and it had already developed intelligence. It had long since become a humanoid monster. The appearance of the humanoid monster was actually a coincidence. It was condensed from the unyielding remnant thoughts of countless experts who had fallen in the ancient battlefield. At this moment, the humanoid monster's body exploded from the impact of the crystal coffin, turning into boundless deathly aura that enveloped the void for tens of thousands of miles. Gu Fei used the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself and charged out from the explosion of death energy. Rumble. The space around the crystal coffin trembled. Death energy gathered from all directions and entered the crystal coffin. A powerful fluctuation was emitted from the crystal coffin. Gu Fei didn't dare to get too close. He retreated 50 to 60,000 miles away and stood in the starry sky. Looking at the surging death chi in front of him, he was shocked. This was the death energy of a saint-rank expert. If it was completely devoured by the woman in the crystal coffin, would she be able to defy the heavens and be reborn? Gu Fei immediately realized that it was impossible. If the woman in the crystal coffin was really the remains of a supreme martial artist that had developed intelligence, even the power of a saint-rank expert wouldn't be able to truly defy the heavens and be reborn. What shocked Gu Fei was that the mass of deathly aura that enveloped a radius of tens of thousands of miles was rapidly being devoured. This is too fast. Gu Fei was shocked once again. The woman in the crystal coffin was truly too frightening. At this rate, the endless deathly aura would soon be completely devoured by her. As expected, in just an hour, the death energy of a saint-rank expert was completely devoured by the crystal coffin. Within the crystal coffin, the spiritual energy was vast. The vast spiritual energy that was converted from the deathly aura entered the woman's body. Soon, the spiritual energy in the coffin was completely absorbed by the woman. The wisp of life aura that came from the crystal coffin seemed to be slightly stronger. Sensing this change, Gu Fei was extremely shocked. After such a vast amount of spiritual energy was absorbed by the woman's life aura only became slightly stronger. It was really too difficult to defy the heavens and be reborn. Swoosh. After devouring all the deathly aura in the ancient starry sky battlefield, the crystal coffin flew towards the depths of the starry sky. Gu Fei's heart skipped a beat. He then chased after it. The crystal coffin was moving very quickly in the starry sky. However, Gu Fei had the fastest movement skill in the world. Even so, he could only barely keep up with the speed of the crystal coffin. The starry sky was boundless. Even with Gu Fei's current cultivation, he could still get lost in the starry sky. After a few hours, the crystal coffin arrived at the border of the soaring dragon ancestral star. At this moment, Gu Fei could only barely sense the aura of the soaring dragon ancestral star. The starry sky of an ancestral star was usually very vast. Only experts whose cultivation base had reached the half-saint realm would dare to walk in the starry sky. Soon, the crystal coffin entered a dim starry sky. There were fragments of broken stars floating everywhere. Some of the stars were already half destroyed. This was an alien battlefield. In the past, a terrifying war had taken place here. Almost all the stars in this starry sky had been destroyed. The dim starry sky was filled with a deathly aura. There was no sign of life. The spiritual energy in a place like this was almost depleted. Cultivators could not cultivate here at all. The crystal coffin entered the depths of the dim starry sky. There was a huge planet floating there. Although the huge planet was not as huge as the soaring dragon ancestral star, it was not much smaller. Gu Fei was extremely shocked. His instincts told him that this huge planet should be the ancestral planet of this starry sky. However, there was no sign of life coming from this huge planet. What exactly happened here? Gu Fei was extremely shocked. An ancestral planet with life had turned into a dead planet. Could it be that there was a great battle between supreme existences in this starry sky? It seemed that only such existences could destroy a starry sky and kill all the living beings on an ancestral planet. The crystal coffin's destination was the dead and silent huge planet. This huge planet was covered with wounds. There were hideous cracks and huge pits on it. This ancestral planet had suffered an unimaginable impact in the past. It was almost destroyed. However, this ancestral planet was not destroyed in the end. Gu Fei knew why this ancestral planet was not destroyed in the end. It was because he could feel the great Tao fluctuation of an extreme grade supreme on this huge planet. This was an ancestral planet that had once produced an extreme grade supreme. It should be the great Tao seal of the extreme grade supreme that protected this ancestral planet. Otherwise, this ancestral planet would have been destroyed. Why did the woman in the crystal coffin come here? Chapter 1885. Amidst the deathly stillness of space, a once glorious ancestral star was revolving. The crystal coffin's destination was actually such a place. This puzzled Gu Fei. Did the crystal coffin come here to absorb the death chi as well? However, although this star domain had been destroyed, he discovered that there weren't any corpses of powerful existences left in the entire star domain. Apart from the destroyed stars, there was not even a shard of a divine weapon. The war that almost destroyed the entire star region seemed to have only left behind a desolate battlefield. Swoosh! The crystal coffin did not stop. It carried the woman and charged towards the huge star. Gu Fei followed suit. Even though the huge star was almost destroyed and suffered an unimaginable impact, it still gave off a feeling of vastness. There was also the fluctuation of the supreme Tao here. An extreme supremacy had once been born here. A life star that could produce an extreme supremacy was extraordinary. For example, the soaring dragon ancestral star was still the cradle of life, and there were still countless experts rising to power. However, the ancestral planet of this star field had turned into a dead planet. It was something that no one had expected. A great battle had almost destroyed an ancestral planet of life. All life on the ancestral star was wiped out, and nothing was left behind. However, from the wreckage of the buildings on the ancestral star, one could tell that there were countless cultivators and powerful existences on the ancestral star in the past. Today, everything from the past no longer existed. Bam! The crystal coffin descended from the sky and smashed into a pitch-black crack on the Death Star. It then disappeared into the darkness. Just as the crystal coffin disappeared into the crack, Gu Fei suddenly sensed that the aura of the crystal coffin had disappeared. This made his heart skip a beat. Swoosh! He directly entered the huge star. Buzz! Just as Gu Fei was about to land on the edge of the crack, a sword chime was heard. Then, a sword ray shot out from the crack and pierced towards him. Gu Fei was taken aback. He immediately soared into the sky and dodged the sword. The sword light swept past him and only dissipated in the void after soaring tens of thousands of feet. The chilling sword chi fluctuations caused him to be shocked. Hidden within the pitch-black crevice was a peerless killing intent, causing Gu Fei to be alarmed. That sword attack just now was very sudden and powerful. Even Gu Fei did not dare to face it head-on. There was a kind of invincible sword intent. What happened? There were no more fluctuations of sword chi in this big crack, which made Gu Fei anxious. He didn't dare to be careless, because in this place, a careless mistake could put his life in danger. However, Gu Fei had seen the crystal coffin enter the huge crack with his own eyes. Soon, he noticed that the surrounding death chi was gradually decreasing. An extremely weak life force came from the depths of the crevice. As expected, Gu Fei knew that he had guessed correctly. The crystal coffin was devouring the deathly aura, but this time, the deathly aura here was many times stronger than the deathly aura in the ancient starry sky battlefield. The woman in the crystal coffin wanted to be reborn, and the amount of death chi she needed was too shocking. The crystal coffin moved in the starry sky as if it was searching for death chi. The mysterious woman in the crystal coffin turned the death chi into spiritual chi to nourish herself. Gu Fei continued to descend, breaking through the layers of death chi. After an unknown period of time, he felt his body lighten, as if he had entered another world. He felt the fluctuation of other heaven and earth energies. There was indeed another world inside this ancestral star. The ground was dark, the sky was dark, and the ground was covered with white bones. Broken divine weapons and magical treasures could be seen everywhere. These divine weapons and magical treasures had all lost their spirituality. Another ancient battlefield. Chapter 1886. Gu Fei channeled the power of the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself. Passing through layers of death energy, he entered a dark world. This place was filled with death energy and blood-colored clouds drifted in the sky. On the other hand, the ground was covered in white bones. As far as the eye could see, there were countless weapons and treasures scattered around the bones. Of course, some of these weapons and magic treasures had already been damaged. Although some of them were still intact, they had lost all their spirituality and energy. They had turned into scrap metal. Time had worn away everything. At this moment, in the depths of this world, a crystal coffin was floating in the middle of this world. It was devouring the endless essence of death energy. Countless amounts of death energy gathered towards the crystal coffin from all directions. After entering the crystal coffin, it was converted into pure spirit energy and absorbed by the woman in the coffin. The life aura of the woman in the coffin was gradually growing stronger. An existence born from death was already a strange life form. It was a new life form. The woman in the coffin must have condensed a blood bead of life. Gu Fei had sensed the faint life force fluctuations emanating from the blood orb of life within the woman's body. Roar! Just as the crystal coffin was devouring the death energy from all directions, a furious roar rang out in another area. Following that, a mountain of bones exploded and a creature with green hair all over its body charged out. That is, seeing this, Gu Fei was shocked to the extreme. That green-furred creature was an evil creature known as the green-furred zombie corpse. It was an evil life form born from the endless death energy. Swish! The green-furred zombie corpse was incomparably powerful. It moved through the void at high speed. In just a short while, it had arrived before the crystal coffin. Bang! The green-furred zombie corpse swung its fist at the crystal coffin. Just as the green-furred zombie corpse's fist made contact with the crystal coffin, a shocking change happened to the crystal coffin. A powerful force suddenly emerged from the crystal coffin, sucking in the green-furred zombie corpse's fist. Roar! The green-furred zombie corpse roared furiously. The death energy on its body was rapidly devoured by the crystal coffin. In just a short while, the 3 zhang tall, incomparably ferocious zombie corpse was sucked dry by the crystal coffin. Seeing this scene, Gu Fei was extremely shocked. Roar! Roar! In another part of the world, 2 more furious roars resounded. 2 green-furred zombies rushed out of the bone mountains and rushed towards the crystal coffin. This vast ancient battlefield actually gave birth to such a monster. It was truly unbelievable. The green-haired zombie corpse was extremely powerful. It was one of the evilest existences in the world. This was because this zombie corpse's entire body was filled with fatal corpse poison. Once someone was infected with the corpse poison, they would die without a doubt. Even Gu Fei was wary of this kind of evil monster. Fortunately, these green-furred monsters did not attack Gu Fei, but the crystal coffin. However, the difference between the two was too great. These green-furred monsters could not harm the crystal coffin at all. The 2 green-furred monsters that attacked the crystal coffin were also sucked in by the crystal coffin. Following that, the energy of death on these 2 green-furred monsters was continuously absorbed by the crystal coffin. Soon, the 2 green-furred monsters were sucked dry by the crystal coffin. After absorbing the energy of death from the 3 green-furred monsters, the life force coming from the crystal coffin became much stronger. It was as if an era had been buried in this world. The interior of the ancestral star was simply a super huge tomb. It was as if all the living beings on the ancestral star had died here. Gu Fei had already seen the crystal coffin absorb the energy of death. This time, he did not pay much attention to the crystal coffin. He then walked around this world of death. Soon, he found an ancient monument at the foot of a mountain that had been split in half at the middle. The ancient tablet was engraved with ancient divine characters. Gu Fei did not recognize these divine characters, but everyone knew the meaning of the ancient divine characters on the ancient tablet. This was because the ancient tablet still had the spiritual imprint of the powerhouse who left the ancient tablet. Clear Jade Mountain Gate. This was the meaning expressed by the 4 ancient divine characters on the ancient tablet. Could it be that this mountain used to be the location of a sect? Gu Fei could not help but be shocked at the thought of this. How could a sect's mountain gate appear here? It was really unbelievable. Gu Fei continued to walk around this world of death. Soon, he found another ancient tablet that was damaged. He also did not recognize the ancient divine characters on the ancient tablet. However, even though he didn't recognize these ancient divine characters, he knew what they were trying to convey. Northmont Sword Sect. Gu Fei was very surprised. There were also sword cultivators on this ancestral star. However, it was obvious that this so-called Northmont Sword Sect no longer existed. After regrouping, Gu Fei found the mountain gates of more than a dozen sects in succession. However, without exception, these sects were all destroyed without a single survivor. The places where these sects were located were razed to the ground by a great force. Could it be that this place really buried everything on this ancestral star? It was hard to say. This super huge tomb was not simple, but it was unknown who did it. Who sealed these things inside this ancestral star? No one knew. The person who did this must be a sovereign. In the past, there might have been sovereigns watching the battle between the sovereigns. After the battle, a sovereign took action and sealed all the corpses on this ancestral star into the inner world of this ancestral star. Of course, this lifeless world was definitely created, and not something that had originally existed. Who could have done something so extravagant as to bury all the living beings in this star domain? Not many people would know about such a great secret of the world. Rumble. Just as Gu Fei was about to continue his search in this world full of corpses, the entire void suddenly trembled. Gu Fei suddenly realized that he seemed to have made a huge mistake. However, it was already too late. Go. Gu Fei did not hesitate. He immediately rushed towards the exit of this world. The world energy in this world that seemed to be boundless was being drawn. Someone was refining this part of the world. At this time, in the direction of the crystal coffin, there were thousands of rays of light and thousands of auspicious colors. The vast heaven and earth energy expelled all the death chi. The lid of the crystal coffin had already been opened. A woman sat up, holding a divine pearl in her hands. Streams of heaven and earth energy rushed out from this divine pearl and merged with the surrounding heaven and earth. Chapter 1887. In the depths of the ancestral star, a crystal coffin floated high up in the sky. Boundless heaven and earth energy emanated from the hands of a woman in the coffin. The pulse of the entire world was under the woman's control, but she could not stand up from the coffin because her body below her abdomen was still deathly gray, lacking vitality. Even after devouring the boundless death chi, the death chi in her body had not been completely expelled. Only her upper body had regained its vitality and regained its color. Being born from death was truly difficult. This was defying the heavens. However, this crystal coffin was a strange object that could convert the death chi into life energy. Even so, the death chi in this woman's body was still difficult to be completely expelled. However, if this woman could successfully refine this world, she might be able to completely restore the vitality of her body and be reborn. Swoosh! Gu Fei executed the 8 desolation void steps and sprinted in this dark world. He had already displayed his extreme speed, and with a single step, he was already thousands of miles away. He wanted to escape from this world, while the woman in the crystal coffin was refining this world. Otherwise, he would not be able to leave this place. The woman in the crystal coffin had a mysterious origin. She was the corpse of a supreme being that had regained consciousness. This was a different kind of life form. No one knew if the woman in the crystal coffin was the same supreme being of the extreme Tao, or if she had retained the memories of her previous life. However, this had nothing to do with him. Right now, what Gu Fei wanted to do the most was to hide as far away as possible. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook. The weather in this super great tomb changed. Boundless heaven and earth energy was awakening. On the ground, The soil undulated like waves. Even the bones buried in the ground were dug out. Bolts of lightning flashed across the dark sky, illuminating this world from time to time. This world that had been buried for an entire era was finally no longer silent. Boundless laws intertwined, and this world was about to close. Gu Fei was extremely anxious. The exit was right in front of him. Without thinking, he used the power of the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself and charged forward. Buzz. At this moment, a sword chime rang out. The sword ray that appeared out of nowhere appeared again and slashed at Gu Fei. Gu Fei ignored the sword light. The sword light instantly struck the ancient cauldron's shadow outside of Gu Fei's body. Although the sword light was powerful, it couldn't break the shadow of the mountain and river cauldron. The defense of the cauldron of mountain and river was probably the strongest among all the supreme saint weapons. Although the sword light was powerful, it was unable to break through the defense of the cauldron of mountain and river. The sword light was shattered, and Gu Fei rushed out of the ancestral star. At this time, the ancestral star's rift was disappearing. The rift that stretched across half of the ancestral star was being repaired. The great Tao of heaven and earth that was on the verge of collapse began to recover, and so did the marks of the great Tao left behind by the autarch. The almost destroyed ancestral planet seemed to have regained its vitality. Rumble. The ancestral star quaked as the various natural laws of the world were awakened. Bolts of lightning flashed across the entire ancestral star, dark clouds surged, and a heavy rain began to fall. All kinds of phenomena appeared on the ancestral star. The earth was nourished by the rain. Some places were flooded, others were snowing, and in some places, the rain gathered and formed rivers and seas. Gu Fei flew up into the sky, and he couldn't help but feel shocked as he could feel that the ancestral star was no longer lifeless. He didn't stop and left the ancestral star. Every time he saw the woman in the crystal coffin, Gu Fei would feel his scalp tingle, and it made him feel uneasy. The autarch's body was extremely powerful, and even though she was no longer the autarch of the past, she was still not something that Gu Fei could fight against. Because of the changes that had taken place in the ancestral star of this star field, the stars that had not been destroyed began to shine with dazzling starlight again. The ancestral star of life was the center of a star field, and with the ancestral star of life as the center, an unknown number of miles of starry sky formed a star field. The star field was so vast that weaker cultivators wouldn't dare to travel between the star fields, because without a star chart, they could get lost in the vast starry sky. Boom! Just as Gu Fei was about to leave the star field, a star in front of him suddenly exploded, and a powerful destructive force spread in all directions. The powerful destructive force made Gu Fei's expression change. Roar! A furious roar shook the starry sky, and a figure rushed out from the exploded star. His black hair danced wildly in the wind, and his eyes were filled with blood-red light. Haha, I'm finally free. Where is Lord Taishian? The man was arrogant, and as soon as he came out, he wanted to find Lord Taishian, which shocked Gu Fei. There weren't many people who could be called Lord Taishian since ancient times. Lord Taishian was said to be one of the 9 great disciples of the Supreme Great Elder. Gu Fei sometimes suspected that Taishian sect might have received some of Lord Taishuan's inheritance, which was why it was called Taishian sect. Of course, all of this could no longer be investigated. Taishian sect had become history. Although Gu Fei wanted to rebuild Taishian sect, the method he cultivated was not the inheritance of Taishian sect. At this time, Gu Fei couldn't care so much, and he quickly retreated. The man discovered the existence of Gu Fei, and then took a step forward, directly appearing in front of Gu Fei. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed Gu Fei. "Little ant, how dare you escape from me?" The man's words were extremely cold. "Hey, you are the heir of the martial ancestor." That person seemed to be startled, but very quickly, a ripple came from that person's hand. It was a strand of divine sense. After this strand of divine sense entered Gu Fei's body, it rapidly entered Gu Fei's Niwen Palace. What? Gu Fei's shock was no small matter. Even with his cultivation and strength, he couldn't put up any resistance against this person. Moreover, this person wanted to read his memory. Buzz. At this critical moment, a powerful force exploded from Gu Fei's body, and the shadow of a big cauldron appeared on his body, shaking off the man's hand. The mountain and river cauldron. Haha, it really takes no effort to find it. When the man was shaken off by the shadow of the big cauldron, he couldn't help but be surprised. But then he was happy. His blood-red eyes shot out beams of demonic light, and he was inexplicably excited. Humph! Blood splattered everywhere as the evil devil was sent flying. That woman's punch had nearly smashed that fiend devil's head apart. At this time, Gu Fei had already fled far away. What a joke! If he were to be affected by a battle of this level, his body and soul would be destroyed. There was no suspense in the following battle. Although the woman did not truly descend, the combat strength she displayed was too shocking. Although the evil devil was a great demon saint, he was still no match for the mysterious woman. In the end, he was killed by the mysterious woman's clone in this starfield. After killing the great demon saint, the woman glanced at Gu Fei before disappearing. It's the person in the coffin. Gu Fei's heart trembled. The woman in the crystal coffin was extremely powerful. Just a clone was able to kill a great demon saint. How powerful was her combat strength? The performance of the evil devil made him feel even more uneasy. Of course, the great demon saint had been sealed for countless years, and his vitality had been damaged. He had almost fallen from the sage rank, so he could not display much of the true strength of a sage rank expert. Just as Gu Fei was feeling bewildered, a powerful wave came from the direction of the ancestral star. Gu Fei suddenly returned to his senses, and then he turned around and left without looking back. He knew that a change had finally appeared in this star domain after countless years of silence. Half a day passed. Gu Fei was walking in the starfield. He could no longer sense the wave of the huge star. He was already far away from that place. However, Gu Fei was in big trouble. He realized that he was really lost in the endless starfield. He did not have a star chart with him. Under such circumstances, it was difficult for Gu Fei to return to the soaring dragon ancestral star. It would be great if He Tian was here. With He Tian's attainments and formations, it would be a piece of cake for him to find the 4 cardinal directions. Gu Fei continued to travel through the starfield. He wanted to find an ancestral star with life. However, there were not many ancestral stars with life in this boundless starfield. Apart from the soaring dragon ancestral star that Gu Fei knew of, he had never seen another ancestral star with life. Gu Fei continued to wander in the starfield. 1 year passed, 2 years passed. Gu Fei, who was lost in the starfield, kept looking for a way back. After a few years, Gu Fei suddenly sensed a weak wave. He followed the wave and soon, a life aura appeared in this starfield. That is, Gu Fei finally saw the source of the life aura. It was a blue star. 70% of the star was ocean, and the remaining 30% was land. Without hesitation, he flew directly towards the blue star. At this time, the humans on this blue planet saw an unbelievable scene through the satellites in space. A person actually appeared in space without any protective clothing on his body. Alien. The people in several secret places on the blue star were in an uproar. An explosive news was spreading rapidly, causing some people on the entire star to be extremely nervous. There were even powerful weapons that had locked onto the person who had appeared in space. Gu Fei, who sensed some kind of danger, disappeared from the outer space of the blue star. He directly entered the atmosphere of the star and landed on the highest mountain of the star. With the appearance of Gu Fei, a team of mountaineers who had painstakingly climbed the highest mountain in the world were scared to death. A person wearing simple clothing had actually descended from the sky. Could it be that they had encountered a legendary immortal? The spirit energy here is too thin. Gu Fei sensed the concentration of spirit energy on this star. Such a concentration of spirit energy was not suitable for cultivation at all. Even an existence with a heaven-defying physique would not be able to achieve much by cultivating on this star. In the next moment, Gu Fei arrived in front of a team of people wearing thick clothing. He reached out and pressed his hand on the head of a middle-aged man in the team. Chapter 1889. Compared to the soaring dragon ancestral star, The aqua-blue planet couldn't be compared at all. This planet was too small, but there were many humans living on it. It was a completely different planet from the Soaring Dragon ancestral star. The Soaring Dragon ancestral star focused on cultivation, pursuing immortality. Longevity was the goal of all living beings. On this planet called Earth, although there were quite a few humans, the vast majority of them were not cultivating. Billions of them were mortals. Moreover, Gu Fei noticed that there wasn't even a single immortal on this planet. Even if there were some cultivators, their cultivation was pitifully low. Swish! Gu Fei's figure disappeared from this mountain, called Mount Everest. "Boss, we met an immortal." A tall youth came back to his senses and said with a trembling voice. Everything that had happened in front of him was beyond his understanding. Immortals of legends. A middle-aged man muttered to himself. He was the leader of the team and was an experienced climber. This wasn't his first time climbing the highest mountain in the world. All the members of the mountaineering team were shocked to the extreme. What happened today could no longer be explained by science. A person wearing a thin set of clothes could actually appear on the world's highest peak. This had already exceeded everyone's understanding. When they regained their senses, they hurried down the mountain and sent the news to their friends and family. On this earth, there was something called the Internet and Weibo. News spread at an absurd speed. Soon, the news of an immortal appearing on Mount Everest spread. At this time, Gu Fei had arrived on Earth, in a place called China. Here, there was a place with decent spiritual energy called Kunlun. Why would there be a mountain called Kunlun here? Gu Fei was shocked. There were also legends of Kunlun on the soaring ancestral star. It was a sacred mountain in ancient times. Legends said that a supreme female lived on it. When Gu Fei arrived at Kunlun, he was incomparably shocked. Kunlun Mountain was actually sealed by a formation. Someone had used great magic to hide the real Kunlun Mountain. The so-called Kunlun Mountain in the outside world was just a corner of the real Kunlun Mountain. In Gu Fei's eyes, this grand formation sealing Kunlun Mountain was nothing. However, this was definitely the work of a sage. Apart from a sage, no one could hide a sacred mountain. Land of the Soaring Dragon. When Gu Fei set foot on Mount Kunlun, he couldn't help but be startled by the momentum of the world before him. It was truly surprising that there was a land of soaring dragons on a small planet like Earth. However, the more Gu Fei observed, the more astonished he got. The terrain before him did not seem as simple as a soaring dragon ground. The outer perimeter of the entire Kunlun God Mountain was actually surrounded by mountain ridges one after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time around, Gu Fei was truly stunned. How was this a land of soaring dragons or whatnot? This was just a heaven-revolting terrain. There had never been a terrain as such in all of history. 10,000 dragon reverence. Gu Fei's voice was quivering right now. A terrain as such was way too heaven-revolting. Could this Kunlun God Mountain truly be that legendary ancient God Mountain? 10,000 dragon reverence. Could there be an ancestor dragon being nurtured within this Kunlun God Mountain? At the thought of this, Gu Fei was astounded beyond anything else. This wasn't impossible. The 10,000 dragon reverence ground was something that had never appeared in all of history. To think that it would appear on a small planet as such. No wonder there was someone who could seal up such a heaven-revolting terrain with their powers. Gu Fei stood on a mountain peak at the outer perimeter of Kunlun Mountain. Just as he was about to enter this heaven-revolting region, a beam of God light bolted over from the distance. Sure. That beam of God light landed on the top of the mountain that Gu Fei was at. When the light dissipated, a young Taoist appeared before Gu Fei. This was a Taoist with a spiritual nature. His face was like a crown of jade, and his body was tall and slender. His long hair was tied up casually with a green ribbon that draped behind his head. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" The tone of this Taoist was icy cold, with a haughty look on his face. In his opinion, the fact that a mere mortal like Gu Fei could make it into this Kunlun immortal realm was pretty unbelievable. However, anyone who could make it into this place would definitely have some immortal affinity. If their physiques were decent, they might even be able to be taken in as disciples by the immortal sects within the Kunlun immortal realm. The immortal sects within Kunlun were the rulers of this Kunlun immortal realm. Yes, the moment Gu Fei heard this, he could not help but feel a little displeased. Even though this man could make use of shifting lights, his cultivation state had yet to truly break through the shackles of post-celestial. It could be said that such a cultivator had not really entered the path of cultivation. Only by breaking through the shackles of post-celestial could he be considered to have embarked on the path of cultivation. There were so many people like this in the Tunglong continent. It seems that your physiques, as a mortal, are not that good. I'd better kill you. After looking at Gu Fei from head to toe, the Taoist said such words. This made Gu Fei a little speechless. He could not believe that he had been ignored by an ant. If a person with average physiques happened to enter the Kunlun immortal realm, there would only be two outcomes. One was to be sent out by the people of the Kunlun immortal realm, and the other was to be killed on the spot by the people of the Kunlun immortal realm. Cultivators were very straightforward. They would do whatever they thought of. When this Taoist said that he wanted to kill Gu Fei, he was definitely not joking. He really wanted to kill Gu Fei. Gu Fei still had a calm expression on his face. This calmness surprised the Taoist. I didn't expect you to have a good temperament, but it's a pity. The Taoist shook his head, seeming to feel a little sorry. However, since he had already wanted to kill Gu Fei must die. Humph, it's a pity. Gu Fei looked at the Taoist and said indifferently. When the Taoist saw that Gu Fei was still so calm, he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. This was too abnormal. After all, he was a disciple in charge of guarding the entrance of the Kunlun immortal realm. He had also encountered several mortals who had entered the Kunlun immortal realm by mistake. In front of him, none of those mortals behaved as calmly as the young man in front of him. Go to hell. The young Taoist didn't think too much. He directly took out a talisman, then recited an incantation and threw the talisman to Gu Fei. Boom! After the young Taoist threw the talisman, it immediately turned into a ball of flame and burned toward Gu Fei. This was an ordinary fireball talisman. Chapter 1890. Gu Fei had entered the Kunlun immortal realm. This was a world that had been opened up by someone. Protected by a barrier, it was not known to outsiders. However, on this planet known as Earth, there were countless of legends regarding Kunlun. Kunlun immortal realm. That was a place that only existed in myths and legends. But today, Gu Fei had stepped foot into this place that existed only in myths and legends. This was a place where the 1,000 dragons' reverence grounds were gathered. Around the Kunlun God Mountain, there were a total of 10,000 mountain ridges. Not only that, all of the mountain ridges were facing the Kunlun God Mountain as though they were kowtowing to it. The reason why the spirit chi on this planet was thin was most likely due to the terrain of this 1,000 dragons' reverence grounds. All of the spirit chi in the entire planet was gathered towards Kunlun. In the entire planet, the Kunlun immortal realm was the only place that was suitable for cultivators to cultivate. There were no other places on this planet that had any cultivators around. And just as Gu Fei was about to enter that heaven-revolting terrain up ahead to take a good look, a young man wearing a Taoist robe bolted out. Go to hell. Before long, that young man had already developed a killing intent towards Gu Fei. He then tossed out a fireball talisman at Gu Fei, wanting to burn him alive. Oomph! Gu Fei snorted out coldly before waving his hand. Instantly, that fireball flew back towards that young Taoist. Bam! The fireball struck that young Taoist squarely, and the flames engulfed him entirely. When the flames dissipated, the young Taoist's entire face was charred black. There were a few huge holes in that Taoist robe that he was wearing. That head of elegant long hair of his was completely burnt off, leaving him bald. That bald head of his was still steaming. That young Taoist spat out a mouthful of turbid air before pointing at Gu Fei in shock, unable to say anything for a long time. Who's the ant? Who's the colossal dragon? Gu Fei calmly looked at the young Taoist priest who was in an extremely pathetic state and said those words. When the young cultivator heard this, he was stunned. Then, he knelt before Gu Fei and his entire body trembled. At this point, how could he not know that the young man before him was a powerful cultivator? Senior, please spare my life. At this moment, The young Taoist only wanted to stay alive. However, the cultivation world was definitely a world where the strong preyed on the weak. If the person who broke into the Kunlun paradise was not Gu Fei, the ending would be completely different. Any mortal who was hit by the fireball talisman would be burned to ashes, and not even their bones would be left. Furthermore, if he were to die, so be it. No one would be interested in a mere mortal. After all, within the Kunlun God Mountain, everyone from the Kunlun immortal sect was cultivating for the sake of longevity. I'll forgive you. Gu Fei looked at the young Taoist priest who was kneeling before him. His heart did not waver in the slightest bit. He was already used to seeing life and death. Something as such would not be able to move him at all. Senior, please just treat this lowly person as a fart and let him go, the young Taoist priest begged. The fact that the other party was not even afraid of the fireball talisman meant that he was at least an innate cultivator. Innate cultivator. An existence like that could squash a postnatal cultivator like him to death with a single finger. The difference between innate and postnatal was way too huge. One could only be considered as an official disciple of the Kunlun immortal sect after entering the innate realm. Otherwise, they would end up like this young Taoist priest, who was just an errand boy who was ordered around by the official disciples of the immortal sect. This young Taoist priest was sent by the sect to guard the entrance of the Kunlun paradise. Gu Fei stretched out his right hand and placed it on the top of the young man's head. He read the memories of this young man before tossing him out of the Kunlun paradise. As for whether this young man would fall to his death or not, he didn't care that much. Gu Fei stood on the top of the mountain and pondered for a while. Then, his figure began to change. Soon, he became the young Taoist who was directly thrown out of the Kunlun paradise. He decided to travel in the Kunlun immortal sect as this Taoist. Just now, he read the memory of this young Taoist priest and knew that this Taoist was a disciple of the Guanghan sect, one of the three major immortal sects of the Kunlun immortal sect. In this Guanghan sect, most of the disciples were female, but there were a few male disciples. However, in this Guanghan sect, the status of the male disciples was very low. They could only do some menial work and could not learn the superior cultivation secrets of the sect. The young Taoist priest was called Wu Gang. He was at the peak of the postnatal realm. In Huaxiao on Earth, such an existence could be regarded as the top existence. But in the Kunlun paradise, the cultivation at the peak of the postnatal realm was nothing at all. This Wu Gang wholeheartedly wanted to practice the real cultivation method of immortal cultivation. In the Guanghan sect, he worked hard without complaint because he wanted to become an official disciple of the Guanghan sect. However, it was much more difficult for a man to become an official disciple of the Guanghan sect than it was for a woman. It was Wu Gang's bad luck. Originally, it was the turn of another cultivator at the peak of the postnatal realm to guard the entrance of the Kunlun paradise. But that person had something to do at the last minute, so he took the position. As a result, the things mentioned above happened. In a few hours, someone will come to replace me. Gu Fei found a place and sat down cross-legged. He was now the young Taoist priest, Wu Gang. He was waiting for the arrival of the person who would replace him. 6 hours later, a beam of divine light rushed out from the depths of the Kunlun paradise. It was a middle-aged cultivator whose cultivation had reached the half-step to the innateness realm. Half-step to the innateness realm. As long as he advanced half a step, he would be a disciple of the immortal sect in the innateness realm. It was difficult to enter the immortal sect before reaching the innateness realm. This middle-aged man was the same as Wu Gang. He was just a coolie in the three major immortal sects. However, once someone broke through to the innateness realm, he would become an official disciple of the three major immortal sects. Brother Wu, you can go back now. The middle-aged man went straight to the top of the mountain. Gu Fei nodded and then flew toward the depths of this world. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the mountains. The spiritual chi here. When Gu Fei entered the heaven-defying terrain, a stream of extremely pure spiritual chi rushed toward him. Gu Fei directly ran his magic skill and swallowed the spiritual chi just now. This was simply a place where treasures gathered. Spiritual chi overflowed everywhere. In some places, there were even spiritual springs and spiritual caves that were spewing spiritual chi. It was really strange that it was difficult for the cultivators here to break through to the innateness realm to cultivate in such a heaven-defying place. It should be known that such a heaven-defying terrain was most suitable for cultivators to cultivate. The spiritual chi in the thousands of dragons greeting sect was endless. The spiritual chi in the Kunlun paradise was almost endless. Even Gu Fei could not devour all the spiritual chi here. Wu Gang, you're back. Chapter 1891. Not everyone could enter the Kunlun immortal realm. There was only one entrance and exit connecting the Kunlun immortal realm to the outside world, and very few people could break in. Of course, the spiritual chi in the outside world was thin, and the cultivators in the immortal realm were not willing to go out. The Guanghan sect where Wu Gang was located was said to be the inheritance of Chang Yi of the Moon Palace. However, whether it was really the inheritance of the Moon Palace was unknown. However, most of the disciples in the Guanghan sect were women, and there were very few male disciples. Moreover, the male disciples did not have a high status in the Guanghan sect. After reading Wu Gang's memory, Gu Fei knew that the current head of the Guanghan sect was Ming Xiaferi, a great cultivator in the void-controlling realm. In the Kunlun immortal realm, the cultivators in the void-controlling realm were the most powerful cultivators. Immortals, on this planet called Earth, had already become a legend, and cultivators in the Imperial Void Realm had a lifespan of 1,000 years. This Ming Xiaferi was actually an old woman who was 800 years old, but she had a technique to maintain her youthful appearance, so she still looked like a young girl of 18 or 22. The location of the Guanghan sect was one of the dragons in the 10,000 Dragons Greeting sect. The location of the mountain gate was the place where the dragon condensed spiritual chi, which was also the place where the real dragon spits out pearls. The spiritual chi is so thick, but why is the cultivation of the people here so low? Gu Fei was puzzled. Take the Guanghan sect for example. The place where the Guanghan sect was located was called the real dragon spitting pearls, and it was the place with the thickest spiritual chi in the dragon vein. It was reasonable to say that cultivating in such a place would yield twice the result with half the effort. However, in the entire Guanghan sect, there was only one Ming Xiaferi. With the cultivation of the void-controlling realm, she was already able to compete with the leaders of the other two forces. Gu Fei, who was disguised as Wu Gang, returned to Wu Gang's residence. It was a very simple wooden house, and there was only a futon made of unknown grass. In the wooden house, there was only a futon and a wooden cabinet, and there was nothing else. Gu Fei found that there were many wooden houses nearby, and they could be seen in the forest. This was where the male disciples of the Guanghan sect lived, while the female disciples of the Guanghan sect lived on the mountain with the thickest spiritual chi. Wu Gang, come out. Just as Gu Fei returned to the wooden house, a woman's voice came from outside.
Yes.
Gu Fei couldn't help being startled. Why would a female disciple of the Guanghan sect come to find Wu Gang at this time? He had only briefly read some of Wu Gang's memories, not all of them. Senior Ling Yu. When Gu Fei walked out, he saw a woman dressed in snow-white clothes standing under a tree, looking at him with a look of annoyance. This is bad. This woman was Wu Gang's lover. Her name was Ling Yu. She had been in the sect for less than 30 years. She was a disciple of the Guanghan sect's martial uncle. The three great immortal sects of Kunlun would regularly send their experts to the human world to take in some disciples with good physique and then bring them back to the Kunlun immortal realm. This girl named Ling Yu had a good physique. Although she had only entered the sect for less than 30 years, she had already become an official disciple of the Guanghan sect. There was a huge difference between an official disciple and a nominal disciple, because only an official disciple could practice the various cultivation methods of the sect. As for a nominal disciple, they could only practice some of the most basic cultivation methods. Of course, if one's talent was heaven-defying, even if they practiced these basic cultivation methods, they could still enter the innate realm. However, this Wu Gang was a person who loved ease and hated work. His physique was not that good. He entered the sect 10 years earlier than Ling Yu, but his cultivation was still at the peak of the post-liminary realm. However, this Wu Gang had a handsome appearance and hooked up with this junior sister Ling Yu. Senior sister, Gu Fei didn't want to expose his identity, so he had to walk towards the woman. He felt that there must be a big secret hidden in this Kunlun immortal realm. Moreover, in this thousand-dragon greeting land, he wouldn't make any moves before he figured out the situation. One should know that the thousand-dragon greeting land was a place where the ancestral dragon came from. Follow me. That senior sister Ling Yu just glanced at Gu Fei, then turned around and walked away. Gu Fei had no choice but to follow behind that senior sister Ling Yu. Soon, they arrived at a forest. Gu Fei felt that something was wrong. A man and a woman came to this hidden forest together. What were they doing? You bastard, did you take advantage of the time when I was in seclusion to hook up with other senior sisters and junior sisters? That senior sister Ling Yu suddenly turned around and grabbed Gu Fei's left ear with incredible accuracy. Then, she twisted it hard, and a burst of pain spread from his ear to his brain. While Gu Fei was shocked, he couldn't help but be furious. He really wanted to slap this woman to death. Really, you can't judge a book by its cover. Originally, she was a quiet lady from a respectable family, but now, she had indeed turned into a tigress. You what? Your wings have hardened, right? That senior sister Ling Yu twisted Gu Fei's ear and refused to let go. Humph! Gu Fei let out a cold snort. Then, a force exploded from his body, causing senior sister Ling Yu to fly a dozen steps back and fall into the forest. Aya! You bastard, you're going to die. Senior sister Ling Yu was shocked and angry at the same time. She didn't dare to speak loudly. One should know that this was the Guanghan sect. If someone found out that she was having a tryst with a male disciple, it wouldn't be good. That senior sister Ling Yu jumped up like a tigress. However, before she could stabilize herself, a big hand grabbed her head. As long as Gu Fei exerted some force, he would be able to kill this tigress. You're not Wu Gang. Who are you? At this moment, senior sister Ling Yu finally realized that the person in front of her was not Wu Gang, because Wu Gang definitely didn't have this kind of cultivation and strength. One should know that someone who could easily suppress a Xiantian realm cultivator was definitely not a weakling. You don't have the right to know who I am. Gu Fei's words were extremely cold. He had already made up his mind to kill. One should know that ever since he started cultivating, no one had ever twisted his ear. This was the first time in his life. Senior sister Ling Yu's attack was fast and accurate. Moreover, Gu Fei had sealed his own cultivation. Therefore, he actually failed to dodge senior sister Ling Yu's grasp. Don't kill me. I can do anything for you. Senior sister Ling Yu was scared. She could feel the murderous intent of the other party. She was horrified. However, at this moment, her mind was still very clear. She knew that her life was at the mercy of the other party. Could it be that the other two forces in the Kunlun immortal realm are going to deal with the Guanghan sect? Thoughts flashed through her mind. What can you do for me? Chapter 1892. Gu Fei did not kill this woman called Ling Yu. However, he had placed a restriction on her body so that she had no choice but to work for him. This woman was pretty smart. She knew that her life was in the hands of Gu Fei. Her life or death was in the hands of the other party. The woman called Ling Yu did not dare to have any other thoughts as she returned to the inner sect. As for Gu Fei, he continued to use the identity of Wu Gang to stay in the Guanghan sect. He could sense that there was an earth-shattering secret hidden within this Kunlun. If he did not get to the bottom of it, he would feel uneasy. The spirit qi in the thousand dragons' revering grounds was extremely dense. However, for those who cultivated here, even if they cultivated to their strongest state, they could only break through to void ascension state. To Gu Fei, this state was way too low. One had to know that even if a sage were to appear in the thousand dragons' revering grounds, there would be nothing strange about it. However, not only were there no sages here, there were no immortals either. This was way too unbelievable. But before long, Gu Fei found out what was going on. On the third day he was here, he could already sense an invisible pressure in this world. This pressure was suppressing his cultivation state. When Gu Fei realized this, he could not help but be astounded. No wonder there wasn't a single immortal, even though the spirit qi here was so dense. To think that there would be such a suppressive force in the Kunlun immortal realm. This suppressive force seemed to originate from the Kunlun God Mountain. Could it be? Gu Fei thought of a possibility and broke out in cold sweat. If that were truly the case, he would have to leave this place as soon as possible. For the next few months, Gu Fei walked around the Kunlun immortal realm carefully. Other than the woman called Ling Yu who knew that he was an outsider, no one else knew of his identity. There were no restrictions in the Thousand Dragons' revering grounds, and everyone could enter and exit freely. However, it was not that easy to leave the Kunlun immortal realm. That was because the three immortal sects had sent people to guard the exit. If one wanted to leave this place, one would have to obtain the approval of the three immortal sects. Of course, with Gu Fei's current cultivation state, he could naturally enter and exit this place freely. However, the more Gu Fei learned about this place, the more shocked he became. What were these 10,000 dragon veins nourishing? Could there truly be an ancestor dragon-level, unparalleled existence hidden within the belly of the Kunlun God Mountain? That was because that sealing power that was spreading out from the Kunlun God Mountain was more than enough to affect the laws of the entire world. Only Gu Fei, who was at the third heaven of the Sage-to-Be realm, could sense this suppressive force. Other people, even peak almighties, might not be able to sense the existence of this suppressive force. In other words, there was a startling power within the Kunlun God Mountain. This was a power that could affect the entire Kunlun immortal realm, or even the entire planet. Before this, Gu Fei only knew that only supreme beings could have such power that could affect the entire star. This planet called Earth was not simple. Someone had used supreme means to hide some things. Even an existence like Gu Fei could not discover too many things. One had to know that given Gu Fei's cultivation state, he was already invincible on this planet. But, was he truly invincible on this planet? Gu Fei did not have much confidence. He already knew that there must be some sort of huge secret hidden within the heaven and earth within the Thousand Dragons' revered grounds. Otherwise, there was no way a place as such could remain undiscovered until now. But of course, it was by chance that Gu Fei had come to this place. He had lost his way in the endless starry skies and had to wander for a couple of years before he stumbled upon a planet as such that had a large amount of life on it. This planet called Earth was simply way too small. Compared to the soaring dragon ancestral star, it was not even a millionth of its size. Even a random region on the soaring dragon ancestral star would be countless of times bigger than this planet. In the endless starry skies, a planet as small as this was simply way too insignificant. In the past few months, that woman called Ling Yu had not been able to bring much useful information to Gu Fei. However, within the ancient records of the Guanghan sect, there was a record of something. This Kunlun God Mountain was originally the ancestral ground of this entire planet. In the distant past, this planet did not look like this right now. This place had a long history that had gone through a mythological era. In that mythological era, the Kunlun God Mountain had already existed. The Kunlun God Mountain was the Tao ground of a female supreme being. Of course, all of these were just legends. However, within the Kunlun immortal realm, all the cultivators believed that the existence of that female supreme being was real. That was because at the peak of the Kunlun God Mountain, there was a palace called the Jasper Pool. Jasper Pool, Jasper Terrace. Could there be some sort of connection between the two? Gu Fei could not keep his composure right now. One had to know that in the soaring dragon ancestral star, there were legends regarding female supreme beings as well. And in the ancient legends, it seemed as though there was only a single female supreme being in the entire world. Could there have been another female supreme being that had once appeared in this unknown star region? The so-called Jasper Pool sacred grounds was nothing more than an ancient ruin. As Gu Fei walked through the ruins, he was a little disappointed. There didn't seem to be anything of value left behind in this place. However, at the center of the ruins, there was a small pond. This pond wasn't too big, only having a radius of a few dozen feet. However, there were 3 figures seated cross-legged beside this pond. The appearance of Gu Fei startled the 3 of them immediately. 3 extremely powerful consciousness swept out at the location where Gu Fei was at. Gu Fei was taken aback. The ripples of these 3 consciousness were extremely strong, and did not seem like something that a void ascending state cultivator should possess. However, These three people were truly only a void ascending state. Who are you? Forbidden grounds of Kunlun. Death to all trespassers. The three people beside the pond stood up as three powerful auras appeared within this ancient ruin. Instantly, the peak of the Kunlun mountain was filled with a killing intent. What the hell is going on? Gu Fei didn't pay attention to these three people. He only wanted to know why these three people, who clearly only had void ascending state cultivation, seemed to have a combat strength infinitely close to that of an immortal. Could it be related to the sealing force in this part of the world? Of course, even if a real immortal appeared in front of Gu Fei, he would only be in existence akin to an ant. Taoist Mingxia, look at this person's clothes. He seems to be from your Guanghan sect. Yes, that's right. This little guy is from the Guanghan sect. Taoist Mingxia, what do you say? Among these three people, there was a white-robed fairy, and the other two were two middle-aged Taoists. These two middle-aged Taoists had the intention to kill Gu Fei. The rules were set by the ancestors. You can do whatever you want to this person. Chapter 1893. At the peak of Kunlun, beside a small pool, sat the three grandmasters of Kunlun Immortal Realm. Mingxia Fairy of Guanghan Sect, Chang Chunzi of Kunlun Jade Palace, and Yun Zhongzi of Immortal Taishu Sect. These three were the void-controlling cultivators of Kunlun Immortal Realm. They were the three strongest grandmasters of Kunlun Immortal Realm, and they ruled Kunlun Immortal Realm together. Gu Fei's arrival had alarmed the three grandmasters. Kunlun Forbidden Grounds, trespassers shall die. Chang Chunzi of Jade Palace stood up and looked at Gu Fei coldly. Yun Zhongzi of Immortal Taishu Sect also had killing intent towards Gu Fei. Only Mingxia Fairy sat down cross-legged and did not say a word. Not to mention a male disciple of Guanghan Sect trespassing into Kunlun Forbidden Grounds. Even the most outstanding female disciple in the sect would not be able to protect her, because this was the rule left behind by the ancestors. Trespassers of Kunlun Forbidden Grounds would die. It's still unknown whether it'll be you guys or me who will die. Gu Fei's face was indifferent. A void-defending realm cultivator was nothing in his eyes. Initially, he did not want to alarm the three great immortal sections, but it seemed that it was impossible not to alarm the three great immortal sections. When he was in Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, Gu Fei had seen the name Kunlun in ancient books. Of course, everything about Kunlun had been lost in the long river of time. But to think that there would be a Kunlun God Mountain on this tiny little planet. Not only that, there was even a heaven-revolting place where the ancestor dragon was born in the 10,000 Dragons Reverence sect. To think that he would have stumbled upon this legendary terrain. The strength of the ancestral dragon was undeniable. One should know that Old Tortoise's father was an ancestral dragon. Such an existence could compete with an extreme Tao Supreme Being. How dare you? Yun Zhongzi of Immortal Taishu Sect said angrily. In this Kunlun Immortal Realm, no one had ever dared to speak to them in such a tone. Did this young man think that he was a Tao ancestor? Kunlun was the origin of immortals in the Divine Land. There were countless legends about Kunlun. Little ant, go and die. Yun Zhongzi from the Immortal Sect of Great Void pointed with his finger. A beam of divine light shot out from his finger and pierced through Gu Fei's forehead. He wanted to pierce through the space between Gu Fei's eyebrows and destroy his Naiwan palace, causing Gu Fei's soul to dissipate. Humph. Gu Fei snorted coldly and pointed his finger. A ray of light rushed out from the tip of his finger, and the two rays of light instantly collided. With a loud sound, Gu Fei's finger light broke through Yun Zhongzi's immortal light and shot towards Yun Zhongzi. What? Chang Chunzi and Fairy Ming Xia of the Hollow Jade Temple were shocked. They never expected that the young man in front of them would have such cultivation and combat power. Pooh! There was a flash of blood, and Yun Zhongzi's right shoulder was pierced. The immense force sent Yun Zhongzi, the sect leader of the Great Void Immortal Sect, flying 100 zhang away. Chang Chunzi and Fairy Ming Xia were dumbfounded by this scene. Who the hell are you? Fairy Ming Xia asked Gu Fei. At this moment, everyone looked at Gu Fei differently. Just one move, and this person had injured Yun Zhongzi. This was too unbelievable. One should know that on the entire Earth, there were definitely no more than 5 people who could injure Yun Zhongzi. And of these 5 people, 2 were here. Moreover, even if these 5 people wanted to injure Yun Zhongzi, it would not be so easy. Humph, the 3 grandmasters of Kunlun. What a great reputation. Gu Fei walked over step by step. He did not have any strong aura, but to the 3 grandmasters of Kunlun, this young man was extremely dangerous. Yun Zhongzi's face was ashen. He was injured in one move. He was shocked and angry. Ever since he reached the Yushu Grandmaster realm, he had never been pierced through by anyone. What about me? I'm not convinced. When Gu Fei came before the 3 of them, he remarked calmly. It was only at this moment that he realized that there was a boundless amount of spirit qi within that small pond. This was a spirit spring of Kunlun God Mountain. This spirit spring was far from simple. It carried the essence qi of the Earth Ancestor Meridians. Cultivating beside this small pond would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. What Kunlun forbidden grounds? It was just some people who wanted to occupy this sacred ground for cultivation. Naturally, cultivating with the spirit qi of the Earth Ancestor Meridians was much better than cultivating anywhere else. However, there was no way an immortal could appear on this planet. That was because the existence that was being nurtured within Kunlun God Mountain was suppressing this entire world. An existence as such was absolutely horrifying. The aura that it gave off could suppress an entire planet with life. Even if the spirit qi within Kunlun immortal grounds was even denser, it was impossible for an immortal to appear. Even if there were people with heaven-defying tendons and bones on this planet, they would not be able to cultivate to a higher state. They would only be able to stop at Yushu state. At this moment, the 3 grandmasters could not help but admit defeat. The pressure that Gu Fei was giving them was way too great. It was as though he could kill all of them with a single finger. Earlier on, this young man had already shown them mercy. Senior, where are you from? Could you be a powerful being who has returned from the outer worlds? The sect master of Hollow Jade Temple, Chang Chunzi, asked cautiously. His Hollow Jade Temple was said to be an orthodoxy passed down by the primordial Heavenly Lord. However, that was just a legend. Whether or not the primordial Heavenly Lord existed back in the ancient times, no one knew. As for the immortal sect of Great Void, it was said that it was an orthodoxy passed down by the ancestral Tao ancestor. As for that unparalleled ancestral Tao ancestor, he had a huge reputation in the soaring dragon ancestral star. Even though he had disappeared for countless of years, everyone still remembered that there was once an unparalleled being who had created the unparalleled immortal Tao in the distant past, returned from the outer worlds. The moment Gu Fei heard this, he could not help but be stunned. This sect master of Hollow Jade Temple did have some foresight after all. Actually, Chang Chunzi could not be blamed for having such doubts. One had to know that the 3 grandmasters of Kunlun were already the strongest beings on Earth. Even those fellas from the West were nothing in their eyes. However, this young man was so powerful that they had to look up to him. There was only one explanation for this, and that was that this young man was a powerful being who had returned from the outer worlds. The inheritance of the 3 immortal sects of Kunlun was incomparably ancient. There were countless books and records in the sections. They knew very well that there were still some immortals on Earth thousands of years ago. However, after a great change, Earth became unsuitable for cultivation. Even in a place like the Kunlun immortal realm, it was still difficult to cultivate the celestial immortal Tao. Therefore, those powerful beings left Earth one after another and entered the depths of the starry sky to search for the legendary path to heaven and enter the legendary heaven realm. In fact, the 3 grandmasters of Kunlun did not want to continue staying in the Kunlun immortal realm. However, they did not dare to enter the starry sky rashly. Of course, there was a transmission array in the Kunlun immortal realm that led to the depths of the starry sky. It was an ancient road. Some people who were nearing the end of their lifespans would eventually set foot on that ancient road to find a suitable place for cultivation in the outer worlds. There's actually a transmission array here that leads to the depths of the starry sky. Chapter 1894. Gu Fei was surprised that there was a teleportation formation in Kunlun Immortal Realm that led to the starry sky. However, on second thought, this place even had the heaven-defying terrain of the 10,000 Dragons Greeting sect. What else was impossible? The three great masters of Kunlun had to admit defeat because they were no match for Gu Fei at all. In the cultivation world, whoever had the hardest fist was the boss. The three great masters of Kunlun had to be careful. If Gu Fei was unhappy, they would be in trouble. Senior, are you really an expert who came back from the starry sky? Ming Xiaoferi asked carefully. One had to know that many powerhouses had gone out from Earth. Over the past few thousand years, there had been powerhouses who had made a breakthrough in their cultivation and returned. Gu Fei did not answer. However, the three grandmasters had already determined that Gu Fei was one of the experts who had gone out from Earth and had made a breakthrough in his cultivation. Of course, such people were very rare. Even in the past thousands of years, there were only one or two. Moreover, those people had left after discovering that Earth was not suitable for cultivation. However, Ming Xiaoferi still felt a little strange. How could an expert who went out from Earth not know about Kunlun Immortal Realm? This place is not bad. Get out of here. Gu Fei did not kill the three great masters of Kunlun. Instead, he drove them away. Ming Xiaoferi and the others quickly retreated and left the ancient ruins. Who the hell is that person? After leaving the legendary Jade Lake ruins, Yun Zhongzi could not help but say angrily. He was defeated by that person in one move. He really had no place to vent his anger. How would I know? Chang Chunzi also felt very aggrieved. However, the other party's cultivation was there. So what if he was aggrieved? We still have a trump card that we haven't used. Yun Zhongzi's eyes became sharp, and his face was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. Don't even think about it. If we can't kill that person, the three great immortal sects of Kunlun will be in big trouble. Ming Xiaoferi said quickly. We have to be careful. Chang Chunzi's face also became serious. If they used their trump card, it would cause too much movement. If they were not careful, they might lose more than they gained. No one could bear the consequences. The three grandmasters of the Kunlun sect descended the mountain. None of their sects were located on the Kunlun God Mountain. For others, the Kunlun God Mountain was a forbidden ground. This pool. After Gu Fei drove away the three Kunlun grandmasters, he sat cross-legged beside the pool. Sensing the spiritual energy fluctuation in the pool, even he couldn't help but be moved. This spirit spring was connected to the ancestral veins of Kunlun, and the spiritual energy was almost limitless. Of course, Gu Fei would not miss such an opportunity. He operated his Xin Qi and started cultivating next to the pool. The surrounding spirit Qi was quickly drawn and converged towards him. He didn't know how long he had been sitting there. Spiritual light constantly rushed out of the pool and entered his body. The spiritual Qi of the ancestral vein was different. Even a physique cultivator like Gu Fei could feel the benefits of this spiritual Qi to his martial body. Under the cleansing of the spiritual Qi of the ancestral vein, his martial body actually showed signs of improvement. His blood, flesh, tendons, and bones had become even stronger under the effect of the ancestral vein's spiritual energy. Those fellas sure are guarding over a treasure ground, Gu Fei lamented. If he were to guard over such a treasure ground, he would have long reached the quasi-saint state. However, in the Kunlun Immortal Realm, even with such a sacred cultivation ground, Fairy Ming Xia and the others could only reach the Imperial Void state. If this were on the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, a sacred cultivation ground like this would definitely cause all the cultivation forces to fight over it. Even an existence like the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu might not be able to sit still. After a long time, Gu Fei's body suddenly gave off a heaven-devouring power that devoured all the surrounding spirit Qi into his body. Thereafter, a series of explosions rang out from within his body as a chaotic glow circulated around his body. Gu Fei opened his eyes and let out a long breath before standing up. He could feel that his martial body had taken yet another small step forward. A tremendous amount of energy surged within his body as the chaotic true Qi became even purer. Sure. Gu Fei took a step forward. The next moment, he arrived before a stone wall. On the stone wall, there was an ancient diagram that seemed like a totem. The totem was blurry and indistinct. At first glance, there didn't seem to be anything strange about it. However, when Gu Fei released his consciousness, the ancient totem changed. There was an imprint left on the totem. Even after an endless amount of time had passed, this imprint had not dissipated. This was an epiphany. Gu Fei tried to sense this epiphany seriously. He just stood there without moving for 3 days and 3 nights. After that, Gu Fei descended the Kunlun God Mountain and left the Thousand Dragons' Greeting Grounds. Exiting the Kunlun immortal realm, he began cultivating in the secular world, training his heart in the secular world. Gu Fei sealed up his cultivation state entirely and turned into a mere mortal to roam the world. He traveled all over the Jiangnan competition, from all corners of the world, meeting all sorts of people and events. He spent every single day in an ordinary manner, experiencing all sorts of things in the secular world. After training his heart in the secular world for dozens of years, Gu Fei finally returned to the Kunlun immortal realm. Arriving before the stone wall once more, he sat down cross-legged. When the 3 Kunlun grandmasters caught sight of Gu Fei's return after dozens of years, they could not help but be astounded. This fellow was truly an oddity. They had thought that Gu Fei would never return. Just what in the world is that fella doing? The 3 grandmasters were guessing. However, they did not dare to disturb Gu Fei. And the moment Gu Fei sat down below the stone wall, another 10 years passed. His entire body was covered in dust, making him look like a clay figurine. Roar! On a dark and windy night, a long roar broke the silence of the entire Kunlun immortal realm. The voice boomed out in all directions, with the Kunlun God Mountain as the center. In fact, it even spread out into the outside world. A horrifying shockwave rippled out from the peak of the Kunlun immortal realm, causing the entire world to change in color. Even the sealing power that was being emitted by that existence within the ancestral vein could not suppress it. After dozens of years of training my heart in the secular world, I've finally broken through. Standing beneath the stone wall, Gu Fei reared his head into the sky and roared out. A startling aura spread out from his body. However, it didn't take long before the sealing power of that existence within the Kunlun God Mountain surged out from all directions, trying to take him down. Gu Fei was astounded beyond anything else. This time around, his Tao heart was even firmer than before, and his cultivation state had surged all the way to the pinnacle state of half-saint level 9. He was just a single step away from breaking through to the quasi-saint state. Not only that, he could sense that he wasn't too far away from the quasi-saint state. Training one's heart in the secular world was truly important. When one was able to experience the various forms of life, one's mental state would rise as well. Chapter 1895. After cultivating his heart in the secular world for decades, Gu Fei had traveled all over the world and even visited the Western families. He realized that there were a few places on this planet that were similar to the Kunlun immortal realm. Someone had opened up many small worlds with great power. All the cultivators hid in these small worlds and cultivated inside. Of course, these places could not be compared to the Kunlun immortal realm. When he traveled in the Divine Land, he had specially visited the famous mountains and rivers that had left behind legends of immortals. However, there were no immortals, or people who really knew how to cultivate in these places. After coming to Earth for more than 100 years, Gu Fei felt that it was time for him to leave. However, this planet was not as simple as it seemed. He had a feeling that in the near future, there would definitely be a huge change on this planet. In the Kunlun immortal realm, the ancient teleportation formation was located on the mountainside of the Kunlun God Mountain. When Gu Fei came to the front of the teleportation formation, he could not tell that it was a teleportation formation at all. There was only a platform with a diameter of about 3 feet and a height of only 3 feet in front of him. Around the platform, there were 9 depressions. This was where the spirit stones were placed. This ancient formation platform needed spirit stones to provide energy to activate the power of this teleportation formation. Since Gu Fei was leaving, the 3 Kunlun grandmasters naturally came to send him off. Even the woman called Ling Yu appeared near the teleportation formation. This woman called Ling Yu still had the restriction that Gu Fei had placed on her. Before Gu Fei left, he had removed the restriction on her. However, because this woman was valued by Gu Fei, she was secretly appointed as the next Guanghan sect leader by Fairy Mingxia. However, Fairy Mingxia did not know that in Gu Fei's eyes, this woman called Ling Yu was just an errand girl. In the past few decades, she had done a lot of things for him. Senior, are you really going to leave? Among the 3 Kunlun grandmasters, only Fairy Mingxia had a good relationship with Gu Fei. At this time, she asked. In the past 100 years, Fairy Mingxia's appearance had not changed at all. However, her lifespan was only left with a few decades. A void-resisting realm cultivator only had a lifespan of 1,000 years. Once their lifespan was up, they would also die. Only by breaking through to the demigod realm could Fairy Mingxia survive. However, in the Kunlun immortal realm, it was impossible to break through to the demigod realm. One must know that in these thousands of years, there were already many void-controlling realm cultivators who had exhausted their lifespans and were unable to break through to the demigod realm. These cultivators who were nearing the end of their lifespans had either set foot on the ancient starry sky path or died of old age in the Kunlun immortal realm. There had never been an exception. Some people who were stronger than Mingxia Fairy also ended up the same way. Chang Chunzi from the Jade Void Temple and Yun Zhongzi from the Great Void Immortal Sect were both younger than Fairy Mingxia and had a few hundred more years to live. Naturally, they didn't know what Fairy Mingxia was feeling right now. This isn't a place for me to stay. Naturally, I have to leave. Gu Fei glanced at Fairy Mingxia. He knew that this Fairy Mingxia still had a few decades to live. If there was no miracle, this grandmaster from the Guanghan sect would die of old age. If one of the 3 grandmasters from Kunlun died, then the balance of power in the Kunlun immortal realm would be broken, and the Guanghan sect would be in trouble. However, these things had nothing to do with Gu Fei. He was just a passerby here. After staying here for more than 100 years, it was time for him to leave. No one knew how many things had happened on the soaring dragon ancestral star in the past 100 years. Gu Fei had to go back, but he didn't have a star chart, which was a problem. Although his cultivation had improved, it was hard to say whether he could find his way back. This is for you. If we are fated, we might be able to meet again. Gu Fei took out a young king herb from his inner world and handed it to Fairy Mingxia. A fragrance immediately spread out, and the 3 grandmasters couldn't help but be shocked. They were knowledgeable, and they knew the value of this young king herb. It was a celestial medicine that could extend one's lifespan. Even in the Kunlun immortal realm, this kind of celestial medicine that could extend one's lifespan had long been picked. One should know that no one was willing to die of old age, especially those who had lived for more than 1,000 years. They were even more afraid of death. Chang Chunzi and Yun Zhongzi were extremely envious. Such a young king herb could extend one's lifespan by at least a few hundred years. This celestial medicine was also very important to them. The 2 grandmasters were extremely jealous, but in front of Gu Fei, they didn't dare to be presumptuous. This is for me. Fairy Mingxia's voice trembled. Such a young king herb was extremely important to her, who didn't have much lifespan left. This was equivalent to giving her a second life. A young king herb was equivalent to letting Fairy Mingxia live a second life. No, Gu Fei said. Yes, yes, yes. Fairy Mingxia quickly took the young king herb from Gu Fei's hand carefully. Her hands were trembling. A few hundred years of lifespan was enough for her to cultivate a void-controlling realm cultivator. In fact, Fairy Mingxia really wanted to leave with Gu Fei. However, once she left, the Guanghan sect would face the threat of the immortal sect of Taishu and the Jade Palace. A sect without a grandmaster could not exist in the Kunlun immortal realm. The Jade Palace and the immortal sect of Taishu would definitely attack the Guanghan sect. One should know that there were only so many cultivation resources in the Kunlun immortal realm. The 3 immortal sects seemed to be very harmonious, but in fact, the competition was very fierce. Fairy Mingxia had something in her heart, so she couldn't leave. Take this elixir immediately, and then I will help you refine its power, Gu Fei said. He didn't mind doing this Fairy Mingxia a small favor and extending her lifespan by 1,000 years. If Fairy Mingxia took this young king herb herself, With her cultivation, it would be difficult for her to completely refine the power of the young king herb. A part of the power would be lost. If Gu Fei helped, then the power of this young king herb could be fully exerted. In this way, Fairy Mingxia would really get a new life. Thank you, Senior. Fairy Mingxia was extremely excited. This, Chang Chunzi and Yun Zhongzi couldn't help but be shocked. At this time, the two of them were so regretful that their intestines turned green. Only now did they know that they had missed a great opportunity. They didn't express their goodwill to Gu Fei. For more than 100 years, they just had to deal with Gu Fei. They weren't like Fairy Mingxia, who worked hard for Gu Fei. However, it was too late to regret now. There was no medicine for regret in this world. Fairy Mingxia took the young king herb. With Gu Fei's help, she only used a little less than an hour to refine the huge power of the young king herb. Her cracked soul was now brand new. All the signs of her lifespan ending had disappeared. Fairy Mingxia felt that her essence, qi, and spirit had recovered to their peak state. She could feel that she could live for another 1,000 years. Thank you, Senior. Fairy Mingxia didn't know what to say. Gu Fei waved his hand and walked to the platform in front of him. He took out 9 immortal crystals and put them into the 9 holes on the edge of the platform. The 3 masters were shocked to see Gu Fei take out 9 crystals that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. Even they had never seen such crystals before. That's immortal qi. Chang Chunzi of the Hollow Jade Temple said in shock. Immortal qi. Fairy Mingxia and Yun Zhongzi were shocked. Immortal qi. Could it be that this senior was actually an immortal? Otherwise, how could he have these crystals that contained immortal qi? Using crystals that contained immortal qi to activate this teleportation formation was such a waste. The 3 masters of Kunlun felt their hearts aching. However, at this moment, Gu Fei didn't have the time to care about the 3 masters' feelings. The teleportation formation had already been activated. The 9 immortal essences flowed into the teleportation formation. Buzz. The void trembled. A ball of divine light rushed out from the teleportation formation and instantly enveloped Gu Fei. Then, the void suddenly collapsed. Gu Fei's figure disappeared from the teleportation formation. Immortal crystals. After Kunlun's 3 great masters saw Gu Fei disappear, they immediately went to snatch the 9 immortal crystals on the teleportation array. Those 9 immortal crystals still contained immortal spiritual qi. Activating the teleportation formation wouldn't consume too much immortal qi. A battle broke out between the 3 masters of Kunlun. This was something Gu Fei didn't expect. 9 immortal crystals actually caused a massacre. In the end, Fairy Mingxia snatched 6 immortal crystals, Chang Chunzi snatched 2, and Yun Zhongzi only got 1. Such a result made Yun Zhongzi vomit blood. 100 years ago, he was injured by Gu Fei once. He didn't expect his cultivation to fall to the bottom of the 3 masters. This was something he didn't expect. After this battle, the relationship between the 3 masters of Kunlun was completely severed. The conflict between the 3 sects was finally about to erupt. However, all of this had nothing to do with Gu Fei anymore. This place is, after roughly 2 hours, Gu Fei appeared on a dark and cold star. The surface of the star was sealed by a thick layer of ice. Of course, this degree of coldness didn't affect Gu Fei at all. It can't be. When Gu Fei saw the surrounding situation clearly, he couldn't help but be speechless. He found that he was still in the solar system, and this cold star should be Pluto, one of the 9 planets of the sun. Gu Fei had experienced the process of refining his mind in the mortal world on Earth. Naturally, he knew all kinds of things about the universe near Earth. There was no life on this cold star. Under this kind of low temperature, no life could exist. Of course, except for abnormal existences like Gu Fei. On the silent star, there was not a trace of sound. It was as if even the air here had frozen. This should be the first stop of the cultivators on Earth. There must be a teleportation formation here. Thinking of this, Gu Fei began to look for it. The teleportation formation from Kunlun Immortal Realm on Earth was a one-way teleportation formation. Sure enough, Gu Fei soon found an ancient site. In the center of this site, there was an inconspicuous platform. Chapter 1896. Pluto was a cold star. The temperature here was very low, unsuitable for the survival of living creatures. Only cultivators like Gu Fei were not afraid of the cold here. On this star, there was a ruin that covered an area of more than 10 miles. In the center of this ruin, there was the thing that Gu Fei was looking for, a formation platform. It could be seen that this used to be a city. However, this city had turned into ruins. Furthermore, this city had been destroyed for a very long time. Around this formation platform, there were several people sitting cross-legged. Gu Fei sensed that there was no trace of life in these people sitting beside the formation platform. They were all dead, a total of 5 people. People from the Kunlun immortal realm. Looking at the clothes on these people, Gu Fei had already recognized their origins. These people were wearing the clothes of the 3 great immortal sects of Kunlun. They were the people of the 3 great immortal sects who were at the end of their lifespans and had to leave Earth. What a pity. These people were able to cultivate to the void-controlling realm in the Kunlun immortal realm. Their muscles and bones were absolutely amazing. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to cultivate to the void-controlling realm in that kind of environment. Among the 5 people sitting around the formation platform, there were men and women. There was an old man with white hair and a ruddy face, a middle-aged man, and even a young cultivator. For cultivators who had cultivated to the void-controlling realm, it was very easy for them to change their appearance. How did these people die? Did they die of old age when their lifespans were exhausted? Or did they encounter something else? Gu Fei was about to step forward to check. At this moment, a chilly wind suddenly emerged without warning and then swept toward Gu Fei. There seemed to be something else in the chilly wind. Humph! A bright light burst out of Gu Fei's eyes. His gaze directly penetrated the chilly wind and saw the thing in the chilly wind. He directly reached out and grabbed the thing that was pouncing toward him. It was a black snake as small as a little finger. The snake's body was less than a foot long, and its whole body was pitch black. Some stripes could be vaguely seen. The black snake struggled in Gu Fei's hand and fiercely bit towards Gu Fei's wrist. Gu Fei could clearly see 2 poisonous fangs with blue tint sticking out of the black snake's mouth and stabbing towards his wrist. Gu Fei's martial body was incomparably strong. He was not afraid of the black snake's bite. He exerted force in his hand, and the black snake was directly crushed to death by him. He threw away the black snake in his hand and went forward to check if the 5 of them had any injuries. At this moment, he knew that this planet was not safe. Shwa. As Gu Fei approached the 5 people, the 5 people sitting on the ground suddenly opened their eyes at the same time. Gu Fei couldn't help but jump in fright when he saw this scene. He knew very well that these 5 people didn't have the slightest trace of life on them. They were already dead. He was shocked to find that the pupils of these 5 people who opened their eyes were actually black, like a bottomless black hole. There was a strange power that wanted to devour people's souls. Playing tricks, Gu Fei strode forward. The 5 people stood up and faced Gu Fei. Traces of black gas emerged from their bodies and then lingered around them. There are people here who are proficient in ghost Dao cultivation techniques. Gu Fei could feel that these 5 people had the aura of ghost Dao. This was the power of Ghost Emperor Fengdu's lineage. Someone was using ghost Dao divine ability to control the bodies of these 5 people. Bang! Without any hesitation, Gu Fei directly punched out. A powerful fist force erupted and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void in front of his fist. The bodies of the 5 people immediately collapsed. They were all smashed into pieces by Gu Fei's punch and scattered in all directions. Just as Gu Fei's punch shattered the bodies of the 5 people, black martial arts shadows rushed out. They were 5 black snakes. These 5 black snakes were exactly the same as the black snakes that Gu Fei had pinched to death. What are these things? Gu Fei stretched out his hand, and the 5 black snakes that wanted to escape immediately flew back and fell into his hand. The moment the 5 black snakes were caught by him, they suddenly exploded and turned into a blood mist. This shocked Gu Fei. It seemed that someone was secretly controlling these black snakes. Rats hiding their heads and showing their tails. As Gu Fei muttered to himself, a powerful wave of divine will rushed out from between his eyebrows and spread in all directions. In just a few breaths, his divine will had enveloped the entire Pluto. This planet is not simple. In just a few breaths, Gu Fei sensed that there were a few places on this planet that even his divine sense could not enter. Roar. Right at this moment, a deep roar resounded from within the star. After that, the entire star began to tremble as a shocking aura appeared in the world. Finally can't help but jump out, Gu Fei muttered to himself. The divine light in his eyes became even brighter. It was like two magic lamps had lit up in the dark void. Bang! Outside the ruins, a part of the ground suddenly exploded. Soil flew everywhere, and a huge black shadow rushed out from the ground. The huge black shadow rushed into the sky, and an extremely powerful murderous aura spread in all directions. It was a huge snake that was thousands of feet long. It had a single horn on its head and no claws under its abdomen. Insignificant human. It was you who killed my descendant. A cold voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. This was a communication at the level of divine sense. The huge black snake coiled in the air and raised its giant head high. A pair of huge black eyes stared at Gu Fei. Waves of black energy swirled around, and the huge snake's figure was faintly discernible. Blackwater mystical snake. How is this possible? Gu Fei couldn't help being shocked when he saw the giant serpent. This serpent was actually the Blackwater mystical serpent of ancient times. Seeing that Gu Fei was ignoring it, the huge snake was enraged. It directly spat out a mouthful of black energy at Gu Fei. This black energy was not simple. It was the cold energy that this huge snake had cultivated for countless years. Even a true immortal would be frozen to death if it breathed out. The space enveloped by the black energy was annihilated. Wherever it passed, nothing was left behind. The huge black snake's origin was extraordinary. It was an ancient Blackwater mystical snake. This was indeed a surprise to Gu Fei. It should be known that this ancient species had long been extinct. He didn't think that there would be one hiding on Pluto. Even Gu Fei could feel the danger as the black chi surged forth. Bzzz, the space around Gu Fei trembled. A chi shield formed from chaotic energy emerged from Gu Fei's body and enveloped Gu Fei, resisting the black energy. The black energy collided with Gu Fei's chi shield. The chi shield immediately dimmed, as if it could collapse at any time. Gu Fei was startled. He quickly executed the 8 desolate void steps and quickly retreated, escaping from the range of the black gas. The Blackwater mystical serpent was very surprised to see that Gu Fei was not frozen to death by its black chi. It should be known that its natal cold chi was extremely powerful. As long as one was enveloped by this cold chi, there was no one who could survive. Kid, your cultivation is pretty good. The Blackwater mystical snake's voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. Kid. Gu Fei was speechless when the Blackwater mystical snake called him that. Although the snake was powerful, it couldn't unleash the power of a sage. This was strange. Could it be that this planet also had a sealing power that suppressed their cultivation? Gu Fei couldn't sense any sealing power. Who's the kid here? Gu Fei no longer hesitated. He no longer concealed his aura, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. His long hair fluttered despite the absence of wind as his battle intent surged. The Blackwater mystical snake stared at Gu Fei in shock. It realized that it had severely underestimated this human cultivator's cultivation and combat ability. Whoosh! The Blackwater mystical snake turned and left. Once a battle of this level broke out, one side would die. The Blackwater mystical snake didn't think it was a match for Gu Fei yet. Since you're here, you might as well stay. Gu Fei took a step forward and caught up to the Blackwater mystical snake in an instant. He then soared into the sky and arrived above the Blackwater mystical snake. His right foot stomped down on the Blackwater mystical snake. Boom! The Blackwater mystical snake's giant body fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. The ground shook like waves. This Blackwater mystical snake wasn't fully grown yet. If it were an adult one, Gu Fei would have run as far away as he could. An adult Blackwater mystical snake was absolutely terrifying. Legend had it that an adult Blackwater mystical snake could fight against a sage and even kill one. Oh no! Gu Fei suddenly realized something and hurried down from the sky. By then, the Blackwater mystical snake was nowhere to be found. It had escaped through the earth. How dare you? Gu Fei was furious. The Blackwater mystical snake must have escaped into its nest. But that place was too dangerous. Even Gu Fei felt threatened. At this time, Gu Zhong and Old Jiao, who had been thrown into his inner world by Gu Fei, were already in seclusion. It would be difficult for him to find a helper. This solar system was very unusual. There was a land of thousands of dragons on Earth, and a Blackwater mystical snake was lurking on this planet called Pluto. He wanted to subdue the snake, but he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. He returned to the ancient formation platform. After carefully examining it, he couldn't help but be shocked. There were a few parts of the ancient formation platform that were damaged. Of course, a broken teleportation matrix couldn't be used. Chapter 1897. After scaring the Blackwater mystical snake away, Gu Fei came to the ancient transmitting formation in the center of the ruins. He wanted to repair the transmitting formation and then leave this place. There were some places on this star that even he could not see through, and the place where the Blackwater mystical snake was located was one of them. Otherwise, he would have rushed into the depths of this star. The Blackwater mystical snake was not yet an adult. If he could subdue it, it would definitely be a great help. The ancient teleportation formation was made up of countless mysterious runes. A portion of the runes were already missing and damaged. It should have been caused when the city was destroyed. Could it be that snake? Gu Fei muttered to himself. The Blackwater mystical snake was extremely powerful, and its combat capability was close to the half-saint realm. On this Pluto, such an existence was absolutely invincible. Those cultivators from the Kunlun fairyland were no match for this giant snake. Fortunately, Gu Fei's attainments in formations were also good. Although he was not as good as He Tian, who was a formation guru, it was not difficult for him to repair this transmitting formation. After more than 2 hours of deduction, Gu Fei finally succeeded in repairing this formation platform. He also made some modifications so that people who were teleported from the Kunlun fairyland to this star could directly appear on the formation platform. He left a few words next to the formation platform to remind the latecomers that there was danger here. After doing all this, Gu Fei threw out another 9 fairy crystals, activated the ancient formation platform, and then directly left this star. This ancient road was not easy to travel. At the first stop, he encountered a Blackwater mystical snake that was infinitely close to the half-saint realm. Such an existence was not a match for the cultivators from Earth at all. They could only end up being killed. Where was the next stop? Where was the end of this ancient road? Gu Fei was very curious. He had refined his mind in the mortal world on Earth for decades and learned a lot about the legends of immortals and gods on Earth. These legends were surprisingly similar to some ancient legends on the Tanglong continent. Was there any connection between the Tanglong continent and Earth? Gu Fei did not know that there must be a great secret on Earth, and there were many secrets on the Soaring Dragon ancestral star as well. However, with Gu Fei's current cultivation base and strength, he did not have the ability to solve these mysteries. Perhaps he would only be able to truly understand these things after he became a sage. After an unknown amount of time, the teleportation array teleported them to a very far distance, causing Gu Fei to almost forget about the passing of time. This is, when he reappeared, he discovered that he was in the void, and below him was an endless expanse of yellow sand. The yellow sand danced in the air, enveloping the entire world. This was a world of yellow sand. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but yellow sand. Gu Fei didn't sense any signs of life nearby. In other words, there was no sign of life within a radius of 10,000 miles. Given the range of Gu Fei's current spiritual force, even if he did not deliberately release his spiritual force, he could still sense the area within a radius of nearly 10,000 miles. This was the ability of a peak half-sage. His martial body had reached the bottleneck of a breakthrough. As long as he made another breakthrough, his martial body would transform and become even stronger. The source of a martial artist's strength was the martial body. Only when the martial body continuously transformed and became stronger, the martial artist's combat strength would also increase. Could this be a Death Star? Gu Fei pondered for a moment and then left this place. He wanted to find a teleportation array. There must be a teleportation array nearby, and this ancient road would not stop after 2 stops. Where is it? Yellow sand filled the sky, and it was difficult to find a teleportation array in such a place. One should know that everything here was covered by yellow sand. A strong wind blew, and the yellow sand danced in the air. Even if there was an ancient teleportation array, it would be buried under the yellow sand. Soon, Gufei discovered that this star was very big, and it was many times bigger than Earth. This was a huge star, and there was a divine sun in the sky of this huge star. This was a rare star that could have life. However, it was very strange that there was no life here. There were no rivers, lakes, mountains, or plains. There was only endless yellow sand. Could something have happened to this star, and it became like this? This was not impossible, because a battle between sage-level experts was enough to destroy a star with life. If a battle between sage-level experts had happened on this star, then this star might have become a Death Star. However, in this endless yellow sand, Gufei did not find any traces of a battle between sage-level experts. Of course, this was not what Gufei was interested in. Right now, he wanted to find the teleportation array, or he would not be able to continue his journey. In this way, he would be lost in the vast universe again. The universe was unbelievably vast. Even an expert like Gufei would be in trouble if he got lost in the endless starry sky. One should know that Gufei did not have a star chart. Where is it? Gufei walked through the entire huge star, but he still could not find the teleportation array. This yellow star would occasionally produce sandstorms that were tens of millions of meters wide. In such a harsh environment, only cultivators could survive. Could it really be underground? Gufei had no other choice. He directly broke through the yellow sand and entered the interior of this star. What? After passing through thousands of meters of yellow sand, he encountered a large number of skeletons at the bottom. Countless living beings had fallen here and were buried here. Gufei was extremely shocked. Just what happened on this star back then that caused all the living beings on this star to fall? This star was so huge that it definitely had billions of living beings. The bottom of the yellow sand buried an extremely powerful aura of death. When Gufei sensed the aura of death here, his expression changed. The aura of death condensed from the deaths of billions of living beings was too powerful. In the void, there seemed to be the souls of billions of living beings howling and screaming. Such a land of death was a paradise for cultivators who cultivated demonic arts. Cultivating here would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. Demons loved the aura of death the most. Ghost cultivators were the same. If a group of ghost cultivators were to gather here, they would probably turn this place into a ghost domain. In the depths of this star, Gufei did not dare to go too close. There seemed to be an unimaginable existence lurking there. Even Gufei felt danger. He walked underground, searching for the ancient teleportation formation. Sure enough, he found a ruin buried deep in the yellow sand. Among the ruins, there was an inconspicuous array platform that had broken into 4 or 5 pieces. Chapter 1898. In an underground ruin, Gufei finally found the formation platform. However, the formation platform had been broken into 5 pieces and was destroyed. Seeing this, Gufei couldn't help but frown. This ancient road that started from Earth had been broken for many years. Even the ancient transportation formation was destroyed. However, judging from the ruins around the ancient transportation formation, this ancient road was already very prosperous in the past. With the ancient transportation formation as the center, a city had already been formed. However, this ancient road still changed in the end. The ancient transportation formation was destroyed, and the cities around it were not spared. The ancient road was completely cut off. In the present world, Gufei came to Earth and continued this ancient road. Gufei directly moved the broken ancient formation platform to the surface of the star and laid down a formation to protect the formation platform. However, just as he was laying down the formation, a few black shadows suddenly rushed out from the surrounding yellow sand. A powerful death aura appeared in this area. Seeing these black shadows, Gufei's eyes couldn't help but narrow. These were 5 evil corpses shrouded in a black death aura. Each of these corpses was wearing tattered clothes. Some parts of their bodies even revealed white bones. A strong corpse stench diffused from these 5 corpses. Ancient corpses with intelligence. Gu Fei was shocked. This star had buried billions of creatures. After these billions of creatures died, the death aura generated was simply endless. Under the nourishment of the endless death aura, some ancient corpses with immortal bodies could very likely regrow their intelligence and become evil corpses. However, Gu Fei quickly discovered that these 5 evil corpses were not ancient corpses with intelligence. They were puppets controlled by some kind of power. The existence deep underground finally couldn't help but take action. Humph! Gu Fei directly slapped the 5 evil corpses with his palm. Bang! The 5 evil corpses that were rushing towards Gu Fei immediately suffered a great impact. Their bodies exploded, turning into 5 clouds of black blood mist that dissipated in the void. Roar! A deep roar came from the depths of the earth. Gu Fei had actually killed his evil corpse puppet in one move. This caused the guy deep underground to feel shocked and uneasy. Bang! A cloud of yellow sand rose up, and another black figure rushed out of the ground. A powerful wave of death energy spread out from this figure. This was an intact ancient corpse. It was wearing blue armor, and its eyes were emitting a black light. A black death aura spread out from its body and enveloped the void for about 100 meters. So what? Gu Fei took a step forward and once again slapped towards the ancient evil corpse. A violent gust of wind swept up the yellow sand in the sky, enveloping the evil corpse. Bang! Without any suspense, the evil corpse was sent flying thousands of zhang away by Gu Fei's slap. Its body was actually not destroyed by Gu Fei's slap. Yes. Seeing this result, Gu Fei was also surprised. This evil corpse's body was too strong. It was hard to imagine how strong it was when it was alive. However, no matter how strong it was, it had now become an evil corpse without its own consciousness. It was controlled by someone and turned into a fighting puppet. Roar! The evil corpse roared and dashed towards Gu Fei from afar. It stretched out its huge hand and grabbed towards Gu Fei at an extremely fast speed. This evil corpse must have been a peerless character when it was alive. Even though it had been dead for countless years, its bones and muscles were still amazingly flexible. Heaven-covering palm. Gu Fei displayed his martial path battle skill. A huge hand covered the sky, covering the world. Boom! The evil corpse that was rushing over was slammed into the yellow sand. Under the attack of the heaven-covering palm, the yellow sand within a radius of a few hundred li violently undulated and spread out like waves. Bang! A black shadow soared up to the sky. The evil corpse that was slapped into the yellow sand by Gu Fei was still fine and dashed out again. Who are you? Why are you disturbing my cultivation? The evil corpse stood in the air, and a voice resounded in Gu Fei's mind. Humph! It seems that you provoked me first. Gu Fei snorted. The existence deep underground was a guy that bullied the weak and feared the strong. Once it realized that it couldn't defeat Gu Fei, it resorted to such a shameless method. This is my territory. You are trespassing on my territory. The voice resounded again. Humph! Everything depends on strength. If you can't defeat me, this place is mine. Gu Fei's battle intent surged. The existence deep underground must be a terrifying opponent, but he was fearless. On the contrary, he yearned to fight against such an existence. When the existence deep underground heard this, it fell silent. Swoosh! The evil corpse suddenly swooped down from the sky, broke through the yellow sand, and disappeared into the yellow sand. Seeing this, Gu Fei was startled. Could it be that the fellow deep underground was scheming something? However, after waiting for a while, he didn't see the fellow deep underground attack him. Could it be that the fellow couldn't come out? However, if that existence really couldn't come out, then Gu Fei wouldn't need to worry about it. He could activate the teleportation array and leave this place. Gu Fei's guess was correct. The existence deep underground was at a critical point in its cultivation. It couldn't be distracted, nor could it move its body, or else all its efforts would be for naught. If that happened, then there would be no place for it to cry. Gu Fei ignored it and focused on the array runes on the platform. Very quickly, He realized that this teleportation array was much more complicated than the previous two. He spent the better part of half a day to successfully evolve all the runes of the ancient teleportation formation. Then, he began to repair the ancient teleportation formation. Several hours later, Gu Fei once again departed from this dead planet. After that, a muffled roar rang out from the depths of the earth. It was as if a primordial beast that had been in a deep slumber had awakened. A shocking energy wave spread out from the man's body. Preposterous. A ghost-like silhouette appeared before the teleportation array. It could finally come out, but it realized that the other person had already left. The silhouette lingered outside the array for a while before leaving. This is Chapter 1899. The starry sky was boundless, but there were very few planets with life. The birth of life was not that easy. When Gu Fei came out of the void transfer channel, a wave of life energy hit him in the face. This was a planet with life. He realized that he was in the sky above a primitive mountain forest. The fresh air, which he hadn't smelled in a long time, made him feel invigorated. Releasing his divine consciousness, Gu Fei sensed that there were many powerful beasts in this primitive mountain forest. He even found a human tribe thousands of miles away. That human clan had opened up a place in the forest that was suitable for human beings to live in. In that place, human beings had built a medium-sized city with large rocks. The outer city wall was built with huge rocks and was dozens of feet tall. Inside the outer city wall was an inner city wall. The inner city wall was not as tall as the outer city wall. It was only 70 to 80 feet tall. The inner and outer city walls protected this simple and crude city very well. Outside the city was a primitive mountain forest, but inside the city lived thousands of humans. Compared to the humans on Earth, the humans here were living the most primitive life. Most of the people in the city were hunters who relied on hunting for a living. Gu Fei arrived outside the city. He stood high in the sky and looked down at the city. The ancient road that started from Earth was actually a road of no return. This was because the ancient transfer channel was a one-way transfer. Once one left Earth, there was no way back. Because of this, the three Kunlun sect grandmasters were shocked by Gu Fei's return. This was a city built with rocks. There was a moat outside the city. It was noon, and the drawbridge over the moat had already been lowered. Many hunters wearing animal hides, carrying bows and arrows, and holding long spears were walking in and out of the city. There was plenty of prey in this primitive mountain forest. However, there were also terrifying beasts lurking in the forest. Once they encountered a beast, even the most powerful hunter in the city would suffer a calamity. At this time, a series of roars came from a valley several miles away. Gu Fei discovered that there were more than a dozen hunters hunting a fierce tiger in that valley. Roar. The roar of the ferocious tiger could be heard for dozens of miles. Even in the Stone City, it could be heard. The young master of the Ming clan is finally going to hunt the tiger. Hearing the tiger's roar, some people in the city began to discuss. The Ming clan was one of the clans in Stone City. Ever since the founding ancestor of the Ming clan, they had been in charge of everything in Stone City. The young master of the Ming clan was currently undergoing his coming-of-age ceremony. In Stone City, 16 was considered an adult. Therefore, at the age of 16, all the youths in Stone City had to kill a fierce tiger. Only a teenager who successfully hunted a tiger could be considered an adult. The young master of the Ming clan happened to be 16 this year. In this savage world, the reality was cruel. Only the strong could survive, and the weak could only be eliminated. There was no such thing as mercy. Every year, there were always a few 16-year-old boys who failed to hunt a tiger and were bitten to death by a tiger. Roar. The roars of the ferocious tiger could be heard continuously. The dozen or so hunters were all watching from the surroundings. In the middle of the rubble, a man and a tiger were fighting. Menglong, put in a bit more effort. This big tiger is about to die. An old man stood on top of a 30 to 40 zhang tall boulder and shouted at a youth draped in animal skin in front of him. That was a bare-handed youth. The animal skin on his body was torn in several places, and blood was seeping out from under the skin. This big tiger's claws are really sharp. The bronze-skinned youth's eyes shone brightly as he stared at the ferocious tiger in front of him. This tiger was at least 20 zhang long, and it was incomparably ferocious. There were also many wounds on the tiger's body. This tiger wasn't a ferocious beast, and it didn't have any intelligence. It only hunted by instinct, and it wasn't as scary as a ferocious beast. At this time, the tiger was obviously enraged. It roared again and again, and its 4 claws dug into the ground. The muscles on its limbs were bulging, and it could pounce on the youth at any time. While the youth and the tiger were confronting each other, Gu Fei had already arrived nearby. He looked at the scene below with interest. This youth's qi and blood seemed to be more vigorous than ordinary people. Soon, Gu Fei noticed the abnormality of the youth who was confronting the tiger barehanded. This planet was incomparably huge, and the spiritual energy was dense. The humans who lived in this primitive forest seemed to have much more qi and blood than the humans on Earth. Gu Fei immediately understood the difference between the two in an instant. In this world, in the wilderness, to survive, one had to fight with the surrounding ferocious beasts and hunt for enough food to survive. People who lived in danger were definitely much stronger than those who lived in peace and prosperity. People were born in adversity and die in peace and happiness. This saying couldn't be wrong. Only with a sense of crisis could the human race continue to grow stronger. Otherwise, they would be eliminated. The muscles on the youth's body were tense, and beads of sweat the size of soybeans dripped from his forehead and rolled down his back, dripping onto the soil on the ground and seeping into it. Roar! The tiger roared and slammed its 4 claws on the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise. Then, it turned into a yellow shadow and pounced at the youth. This pounce was extremely ferocious. This was the tiger's most powerful attack. Before it pounced, a gust of wind blew over. Roar! The young man also roared angrily. He stomped his feet on the ground, causing the soil on the ground to sink a few inches. His entire body rushed out and instantly appeared below the ferocious tiger. Swoosh! His right leg was like an arrow, kicking from the bottom up. It was like a divine arrow piercing the sky, extremely swift and fierce. Puffed! The youth's right foot directly kicked the position of the tiger's heart. The strength of this kick was all concentrated on the tip of the youth's foot. The tiger's sternum was broken, and then it was inserted into the tiger's heart. The figures of the youth and the tiger instantly crossed each other. Phew! The youth half knelt on the ground and let out a long breath of turbid air. Then, his entire body relaxed. Bang! The tiger's body heavily smashed onto the ground. Then, a gush of blood flowed out from the tiger's body, and it stopped moving. Phew! The surrounding hunters all cheered when they saw this scene, especially the old man, who was extremely excited. One should know that the youth was his grandson. To be able to kill a ferocious tiger at the age of 16, and in a clean manner, without any serious injuries, this was already very rare. Not bad. Chapter 1900. There was only one human tribe in the great desolate mountain range. The rest of the mountain range was occupied by other races or beasts. There were only a few thousand humans. This tribe was not a big one. A few thousand tribesmen in the great desolate mountain range could easily be wiped out. However, the human tribe still managed to survive. Although the beasts were strong, the human tribe could build stone cities to defend against the beasts. This was the power of wisdom. If one could not fight against the beasts, they had to use their wits. It was very difficult to break through the human tribe's stone city. Even the beasts did not want to provoke the humans in the city. It was not a coincidence that the human tribe appeared in the great desolate mountain range. It was most likely that the cultivators from Earth came here to live and reproduce. In the stone city, the Ming family made up about half of the population. It was one of the biggest clans in the city, and the leader of the city was from the Ming family. The leader of the Ming family was a 150-year-old old man. Although he was no longer in his prime, he was still a powerful cultivator. The average human in the great desolate mountain range could live for more than 100 years. Of course, in such a harsh environment, it was rare to find someone who could live for more than 100 years. Of course, this old man was not a cultivator. However, In the great desolate mountain range, even if the human tribe only knew a few simple body refinement techniques, they were still not something ordinary beasts could provoke. Today, there was a joyous event in the city. The direct descendant of the Ming family, Minglong, had successfully killed a tiger and completed his coming-of-age ceremony. As night fell, the city was brightly lit. Torches were placed in every corner of the city, illuminating the entire city as if it was daytime. The young man named Minglong was the star of the night. These guys, when Gu Fei saw that the people in the city had actually used a stone platform in the center of the city as a platform for the banquet, he was a little speechless. All the important people in the city were sitting around the stone platform. The leader of the Ming family was sitting on the highest seat, and next to him was the star of the night, the young man who killed the tiger with one kick. On the square, everyone was drinking wine and eating big pieces of meat. These people who lived in the primitive forest were straightforward and forthright. This kind of mentality made them very cohesive. Thousands of humans were tightly united. This kind of strength was the guarantee of their survival. The hustle and bustle in the stone city lasted until the latter half of the night. Then, the people who had gathered in Guangxing gradually dispersed. Some people even rolled on the ground, snoring loudly in the square. Shua. Gu Fei descended from the sky and landed directly on the stone platform in the center of the square. Who is it? Enemy attack. Just as Gu Fei landed on the stone platform, a series of shouts rang out. Groups of hunters rushed into the plaza from outside. Not only did the hunting team go out to hunt, but they were also responsible for the defense of Stone City. Although they had partied for a whole night, the hunting groups in the city still maintained a high degree of vigilance. As soon as Gu Fei showed up, these hunting groups found him. Your reaction isn't slow. Gu Fei stood on the stone platform with a calm expression. In just a few breaths, the stone platform was surrounded by dozens of well-equipped hunters. You are not one of us. The elder of the Ming family walked out. This old man had already cultivated the body refining technique to the point where he could produce inner qi from the outside. This kind of situation was similar to the martial arts on Earth. Gu Fei had been cultivating his heart on Earth for decades and had encountered all kinds of things. There were people who cultivated martial arts on Earth. If the cultivation of this old man was judged by the martial arts on Earth, then this old man was already a martial master. This kind of existence could already be considered as a master. With this old man here, normal ferocious beasts would not dare to attack this stone city. Martial arts masters who cultivated energy into qi were much stronger than normal ferocious beasts. Could it be that you are from that place? The old man seemed to have thought of something and suddenly became excited. Why would a branch of the human race appear in the great barren mountain range? The appearance of the human race in this barren land was very abrupt. However, if this branch of the human race was from outside, then everything could be explained. You are quite observant, Gu Fei said. He did not put these people in his eyes at all because there were almost no cultivators among them. Only this old man was a character. You really are from that place. The old man's face turned red. He seemed to know something. The origin of the Ming family might really be related to the cultivators from Earth. Gu Fei did not say anything. Stand down, all of you. The old man shouted at the hunters. The hunters had already drawn their bows and pointed their arrows at Gu Fei. The arrowheads were glowing with a layer of blue light. It was the arrowheads that were stained with pain. This kind of arrowhead was meant to be used against the enemy, not the usual kind of arrowhead used for hunting. Elder, a man who seemed to be the leader of the hunting group said to the old man. I said stand down. Did you not hear me? The old man panicked. This person could enter the stone city without anyone knowing. This was enough to prove that this person did not care about them at all. Yes, although the middle-aged man was unwilling, he could not disobey the order of the elder. Stand down. The middle-aged man waved his hand, and the dozens of hunters immediately put away the bows and arrows in their hands, then retreated in an orderly manner. With one look, one could tell that this was a well-trained hunting team. Meng Qi greets a mortal master. After all the hunters had left, the old man bowed to Gu Fei on the stone platform. Immortal master. Gu Fei couldn't help but be startled. He was not a cultivator. and it was only a coincidence that he chose this ancient path. Of course, if he didn't choose this ancient path, the path of the human race would have been broken, and no one would be able to continue it. Immortal Master, are you from the ancestral land of Kunlun? The old man did not stand up. He prostrated on the ground and asked respectfully, So you do know about Kunlun? When Gu Fei heard this, he knew that his previous guess was correct. This branch of the human race in the mountain was indeed from the Kunlun realm. They were said to be descendants of the Kunlun realm. He never thought that he would meet a descendant of Kunlun on this planet with life. Immortal Master really came from the ancestral land of Kunlun. Please help us return to the ancestral land. The old man kowtowed to Gu Fei again and again. Tears streamed down his face. They had lived here for thousands of years. They had been through dozens of generations, all for the sake of returning to Kunlun. Return to Kunlun. Chapter 1901. The human race's ancient road was a road of no return. It was easy to come out, but it was not so easy to go back. Even an existence like Gu Fei would find it hard to return to the Kunlun realm. Only a formation grandmaster like He Tian would be able to reverse the formation and return to the Kunlun realm. Although Gu Fei had a certain level of attainment in formations, he was not a formation master after all, so it was difficult for him to reverse engineer a formation. In the great wilderness, it had been many years since someone came out from Kunlun. The first stop after leaving Kunlun was the end of this ancient road. The Blackwater mystical snake on Pluto was enough to wipe out all the cultivators from Kunlun. However, Gu Fei was an exception. With a cultivation base at the peak of Half Saint, he could do whatever he wanted even on the soaring dragon ancestral star. Gu Fei's arrival made the patriarch of the Ming family wild with joy. The patriarch invited Gu Fei to the ancestral ground of the Ming family. This was a forbidden area in Stone City, where the ancestors of the Ming family were worshipped, from the first generation to the current generation. In the ancestral ground of the Ming family, there were dozens of memorial tablets. According to the patriarch, the Ming family had been in the Great Wilderness for 68 generations. It had been 3,000 to 4,000 years. This period of time was nothing for immortals, but it was extremely long for ordinary people. The Ming family had been able to survive for thousands of years in the Great Wilderness because of a body tempering technique passed down by their first-generation ancestor. Although this body tempering technique was not a great technique, it was enough for the Ming family to protect themselves. From the patriarch, Gu Fei knew that this star with life was called the Great Desolate Star. However, nobody knew why this planet was called the Great Desolate Planet. It was a coincidence that the ancestors of the Ming clan fell here. It was an accident. The Great Desolate Star, Gu Fei muttered to himself. This name was very appropriate. This star was completely a wild world. Here, the strong preyed on the weak at every moment. Furthermore, this planet was much bigger than Pluto. Even with the range of Gu Fei's spiritual force, it was difficult for him to sense how big this planet was. According to the old patriarch, there were many terrifying forbidden areas on this planet. There were peerless, ferocious beasts residing there. These ferocious beasts were incomparably powerful. If they provoked these ferocious beasts, the human race here would suffer a calamity. Therefore, the people of the Ming family could only hunt in the vicinity of Stone City. They did not dare to go too far. The ferocious beasts in the depths of the mountain were not something they could provoke. 1,000 years ago, this branch of the human race was almost exterminated. The reason was that the human race broke into the territory of a fierce beast in the mountains. Even now, the humans living in the mountains were still threatened by this ferocious beast. Every year, they had to send a pair of virgin boys and girls to the ferocious beast as food. Using virgin boys and girls as food. Hearing this, Gu Fei's eyebrows couldn't help but raise. Immortal Master, I have learned that this year's sacrificial day will be in a month's time, the old patriarch said carefully. This immortal master was able to descend from the sky. He must have extraordinary abilities. Perhaps he could help them get rid of this great threat. Damn it! Gu Fei released his spiritual force. His powerful spiritual force instantly covered a radius of 10,000 miles. All the ferocious beasts in this area felt a great pressure and were all terrified. What ferocious beast is this? Gu Fei stared at the old patriarch. Although this old patriarch was already 150 years old, in front of Gu Fei, he was still a kid. One must know that Gu Fei had already cultivated for hundreds of years. That's a water Kirin, the old patriarch said. Water Kirin. Gu Fei instantly locked on to a ferocious beast. It was a ferocious beast in a deep pool a few hundred miles away from the stone city. The water Kirin was a ferocious beast of the water element. It was best at escaping through water. However, in front of Gu Fei, the water Kirin's escaping technique was like a three-legged cat's technique. No matter how it tried to escape, it was useless. Swoosh. Gu Fei's figure disappeared from the ancestral grounds of the Ming clan. In the next moment, he appeared in the sky above a deep pool a few hundred miles away. There were traces of death aura lingering around this deep pool. It was unknown how many living beings this water Qilin had killed to form this kind of death aura that was visible to the naked eye. Damn it! This water Kirin had harmed countless lives. Without hesitation, Gu Fei pressed his palm down towards the deep pool. A powerful force came crashing down, causing the deep pool below to collapse. Spare me! From the deep pool came a horrified spiritual will. The water Kirin hiding in the depths of the pool wanted to beg for mercy. However, Gu Fei was unmoved. With a single palm, he smashed the deep pool deep into the ground, completely destroying it. The water Kirin hiding in the deep pool was instantly destroyed. Gu Fei could not let go of a ferocious beast that fed on humans. Such a ferocious beast deserved to die 10,000 times over. After killing the water Kirin, Gu Fei returned to the ancestral grounds of the Ming clan. In just a few breaths' time, a ferocious beast had been eliminated. All right, no ferocious beasts can threaten you in the future. After Gu Fei sat down, he said to the old patriarch, "Could it be?" The old patriarch's voice trembled. In just a few breaths' time, this immortal master had killed the water Kirin. That ferocious beast was a water Kirin. It was definitely a king among the ferocious beasts. Yet, this immortal master had killed it in an instant. The old patriarch felt that everything was so surreal. It's impossible to return to Kunlun, Gu Fei said. What? The old patriarch heard this and immediately woke up from his shock. How could this be? The old patriarch did not give up. For thousands of years, the Ming clan only had one wish, and that was to return to their homeland. Because this is a path of no return. Gu Fei looked at the old patriarch and said calmly, "A path of no return." The old patriarch was shocked to the extreme. The ancient path from Kunlun was actually a path of no return. This was hard for the old patriarch to accept. This star is not bad. It's rich in spiritual energy. You guys can cultivate here. When your cultivation is successful, you might be able to find your way back. Gu Fei said after thinking for a while. I'll let Immortal Master know that our Ming clan lacks a technique that can help you become an immortal. The old patriarch said helplessly. Swoosh. Chapter 1902. On the Great Desolate Star, Gu Fei had left behind a few cultivation techniques and imprinted them into the mind of the old tribe leader. Because the ancestors of the Ming family had passed down a simple body cultivation technique, Gu Fei had imparted a few martial arts techniques to the old tribe leader. If the people of the Ming family were successful in cultivating them, they would be able to become sages. These techniques that could be cultivated to the sage realm were extremely precious. If these techniques were circulated on the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star, it would definitely shake the entire cultivation world of the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. Techniques that could be cultivated to the sage realm would definitely make everyone's eyes red with envy. Just as Gu Fei was about to leave the Great Desolate Star, something big happened on the planet. Rumble. The heavens and earth shook and the mountains collapsed. The entire Great Desolate Star was in chaos. Dark light rushed out from the ground, and a demonic power appeared in the sky. I didn't expect there to be a demon in this place. Gu Fei was shocked. In the depths of a mountain range on the Great Desolate Star, the ground collapsed and endless demonic chi surged out from the ground, covering the sky and earth. It was originally a planet rich in spiritual chi, but now it was facing a great calamity. The demonic chi devoured the spiritual chi of the sky and earth. The spiritual chi of the great desolate star was decreasing rapidly. The originally flourishing trees were gradually withering and their vitality was being lost. How is this possible? This wasn't an ordinary demonic power. This demonic power was actually devouring the vitality of the planet. If this demonic power was allowed to continue devouring the vitality of the planet, it wouldn't take long for the planet to become a dead planet. This huge commotion affected the Stone City. However, the Stone City was protected by the formation that Gu Fei had set up, so the Stone City wasn't affected much. How extravagant! Gu Fei was shocked. Devouring the vitality of an entire planet was simply too terrifying. A demon that could do this must be an unparalleled demon. Swoosh Gu Fei rushed out of the Stone City and came to the sky. A gigantic demonic figure vaguely appeared in front of them. The life force of the entire planet was being continuously devoured. It's not a real demon. It's just a remnant soul. Could it be that this demon wants to borrow the endless life force to be reborn? Gu Fei activated his martial Dao divine eyes and saw a shocking scene. There was a terrifying demonic embryo being nurtured, and it was precisely this demonic embryo that was devouring the boundless life force. You're unlucky to be born at this time. Gu Fei did not hesitate. He directly attacked. The demonic fetus seemed to feel threatened. Countless demonized beasts soared into the sky and charged at Gu Fei. Demonic clouds covered the sky. Roar. Countless demonized beasts were extremely ferocious. Under the control of the devil fetus, they all attacked Gu Fei without any regard for their lives. Die! Gu Fei punched out. With just one punch, the countless demonic beasts that attacked him were all turned into a mist of blood, completely dissipating in the void. This punch was too strong, shaking the heavens and the earth. Not only did it kill countless beasts, but it also almost dissipated the demonic aura that shrouded this part of the world. Who are you? We've minded our own business. Why do you want to stop me from achieving the way? A wave of divine will came, and a voice sounded in Gu Fei's mind. Demons. Everyone has the right to kill them. Gu Fei strode over, and the demonic fetus could not stop Gu Fei at all. Buzz. The void shook, and billions of demonic light shone from the demonic fetus. Black demonic chains appeared in the void and then wrapped around Gu Fei. This was a type of divine chain of the Great Path formed by the interweaving of demonic patterns. Countless patterns of the Great Path appeared on the demonic fetus. A remnant soul entered the demonic fetus, and the power of the Great Path surged out from the demonic fetus. The demonic path was also a type of Great Path. When cultivated to the highest level, one could also become a supreme existence like the demon ancestor. After the remnant soul merged with the demonic fetus, the power of the entire demonic fetus soared to a level infinitely close to the saint level. The powerful power made the entire world shake. Demonic aura fell from the sky like dancing dragons, and the demonic might shook the world. Swoosh! Gu Fei used the 8 desolation void steps and weaved through the countless demonic chains, avoiding all of them. He killed his way to the vicinity of the demonic fetus and then attacked. Boom! Endless martial arts true power burst out, and a huge hand covered the sky, covering the demonic fetus below it. The huge hand descended, and the powerful martial arts power shattered everything. Gu Fei displayed his formidable battle prowess and unleashed the heaven-covering palm. Rumble! The huge hand covered the sky and descended, shattering countless demonic chains of the Great Path. It slapped the demonic fetus that was covered in demonic aura down from the sky. A peak half-saint warrior was too strong, and his combat ability was unparalleled. Even the demonic fetus that was infinitely close to the saint level was not a match for Gu Fei. Of course, although the power of the demonic fetus was infinitely close to the saint level, it was still not the power of the saint level. Boom! The ground shook, and the demonic fetus was smashed down by the sky-covering hand. The huge hand smashed the demonic fetus deep into the ground. Many mountains collapsed, and the ground sank. Gu Fei's attack had destroyed everything within a radius of 1,000 miles. But Gu Fei knew that the demonic fetus would not be destroyed so easily. Just as he was about to kill his way into the ground, endless demonic aura suddenly erupted from the depths of the ground. The vast demonic aura wrapped around the demonic fetus and shot into the sky. It wanted to rush out of the great desolate planet and escape into the starry sky. Humph! Gu Fei used the 8 desolation void steps and used his fastest speed to chase after the demonic fetus. Roar! When my main body returns, you will be the first to be killed. The demonic fetus roared. This was a spiritual wave, and its voice rang in Gu Fei's heart. I am not afraid of you. I will destroy your remnant soul today, and then I will destroy your main body in the future. Gu Fei was fearless, and he chased after it. One chased, one fled, and very quickly, they entered the starry sky. Gu Fei also caught up to the demonic fetus in the starry sky. Die! Gu Fei roared. After that, he made his move. He struck out with his primal chaos fist, shattering the void. His 2 fists were like 2 immortal divine mountains, emitting powerful fluctuations as they smashed towards the devil fetus. The strong fist energy caused the starry sky to shake. This was a battle without any suspense. In the end, the demonic fetus could not defeat Gu Fei. It was destroyed by Gu Fei, and it completely disappeared from the world. After the demonic fetus was destroyed, the great desolate planet regained its peace. However, the demonic fetus had devoured half of the life force on the planet, and the density of the spiritual energy on the planet had decreased significantly. Celestial Master, please take us away. Chapter 1903. The great desolate demonic calamity was quelled by Gu Fei. The demon fetus could not escape and was killed by Gu Fei in space. The demon fetus was unlucky. It was born when Gu Fei came to the great desolate star. Otherwise, it might have succeeded, using the lives of the entire planet as the price to go against the heavens. This was too much. Perhaps the demon had already planned this countless years ago. After this battle, the spiritual energy of the great desolate star decreased. When Gu Fei and the demon fetus fought, many regions were destroyed. After quelling the demonic calamity, Gu Fei returned to Stone City. Immortal Master, are you leaving? Asked the Ming family's old chief. Gu Fei did not hide it. He was just a passerby. He would have to leave in the end. The soaring dragon ancestral star was where he should stay. On the path to becoming a saint, he had to occupy a place. However, he was already lost in the starry sky, so finding his way back wasn't an easy task. He could only continue on his way. He wanted to see where the end of the ancient Kunlun Road was. He was looking forward to the end of the ancient Kunlun Road. Perhaps Kunlun and the soaring dragon ancestral star were connected. Immortal Master, bring us on our way. The Ming family's chief did not want to give up this chance to leave the great desolate star. One had to know that the human race's lives here were too bitter. They could only live a primitive life of hunting. They were constantly worried that the beasts in the mountains would come out. If not for Gu Fei, they would still be bullied by the water children. Every year, they would have to send a pair of young boys and girls to the beast as food. They had had enough of such days. I'll bring you with me. Gu Fei looked at the respectful old man in front of him and couldn't help but frown. He had already imparted a few martial arts techniques to this old man. He didn't want to bring these people along with him. But now, he had an idea. Didn't he want to build a faction? Perhaps these thousands of humans could be of use. The great ancient star was filled with spiritual energy. After living here for a long time, the spiritual energy here could change one's physique. Those who could survive on the great ancient star all had strong physiques. Although these people had only cultivated the simplest body technique, they could still kill beasts with their bare hands. Especially the young man named Minglong. He was only 16 years old, but he could easily kill a tiger with a kick. Compared to the humans on Earth, he was much stronger. The physiques of these people were very suitable for the cultivation of martial arts. If he accepted these people, under his guidance, he might really be able to teach a few powerful martial arts experts. Boom! At this moment, Gu Fei suddenly felt a powerful energy fluctuation erupt from his inner world and his dantian. Roar! In a valley within Gu Fei's inner world, a figure was sitting cross-legged on a boulder. That person's entire body flickered with golden light as rays of golden rainbows shot out from his body, illuminating the world. An extremely powerful wave of metal elemental energy rippled out from the golden body. The entire valley was shaking, and all living creatures in the surrounding area were trembling. Haha, I finally broke through. Gu Zhong laughed to the sky. His voice shook the sky, and the clouds in the sky were dispersed by the rolling sound waves. After cultivating in seclusion for dozens of years, he finally broke through. This made Gu Zhong extremely excited. He had successfully broken through to the second heaven of Almighty. Metal elemental energy circled around his body, making him look like a god of war made of gold. Congratulations, Brother Gu. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside the valley. It was a woman. This woman was Zhongli Ming, who had been taken into Gu Fei's inner world with Gu Zhong and Old Jiao in the sage world. Gu Zhong stood up from the boulder. The powerful aura on his body began to recede like the tide. Soon, even the golden light on his body was completely retracted. Fairy Zhongli Ming. Gu Zhong could not help but be stunned when he saw this person. Behind Zhongli Ming were three extremely powerful undead creatures. They were the three undying emperors that Gu Fei had subdued. Greetings, young master. The three undying emperors behind Zhongli Ming bowed to Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong was Gu Fei's disciple and had an extremely powerful cultivation. They did not dare to slight him. Gu Zhong only nodded at the three undying emperors before his gaze landed on Zhongli Ming. He realized that Zhongli Ming's cultivation had increased by quite a bit over the past few decades, and he was not far from the peak of the Almighty Realm. You can see it now. Cultivating in this place allows my cultivation to rise very quickly. I can't even imagine it. In just a few decades, I'm only half a step away from becoming a pinnacle almighty being. Zhongli Ming said. It had to be said that Zhongli Ming's physique was indeed not bad. In the past, she had to take care of the drunken immortal abode and had too many things to worry about. It was difficult for her to calm down and cultivate. At this time, she took the opportunity to calm her heart and cultivate for a few decades. Her cultivation actually kept increasing, and she almost stepped into the realm of peak almighties. Gu Zhong was very envious of Zhongli Ming's continuous increase in cultivation. Zhongli Ming had cultivated for dozens of years, and his cultivation had increased by several small realms. On the other hand, Gu Zhong had only increased by one small realm. Even his junior brother's cultivation speed was much faster than his. However, even if you have broken through to the peak almighty realm, you are still no match for me. Gu Zhong was very confident. Although he had only advanced by a small realm, his fighting strength was strong enough to compete with a peak almighty. Your lineage is really monstrous. It was impossible for Zhongli Ming not to be envious. Who didn't want to be invincible in the same realm? However, how many people were there in the same realm? However, there was such a person in front of her. She looked at Gu Zhong with a different gaze. So you have broken through. At this moment, a voice came from the sky. Master. Gu Zhong was surprised and overjoyed when he heard the voice. He had just broken through and wanted to go out and meet those people. He did not know that Gu Fei was no longer in the sage realm, nor was he in the soaring dragon ancestral star's star field. A figure descended from the sky and landed in the valley. Gu Fei. Zhongli Ming could not help but exclaim when she saw the person. Greetings, Master. The three immortal sovereigns hurriedly knelt down when they saw Gu Fei. Gu Fei nodded and waved his hand to dismiss the three immortal sovereigns. He did not like the aura of death around the three immortal sovereigns. Your junior brother is still in seclusion. Gu Fei looked at Gu Zhong and asked, Yes, junior brother has been in seclusion for a long time. Do you want me to call him out? Gu Zhong said, No need.